All right, with any luck, we're up and running. Give me a second here to check my signal to see if it's true. I need to boost the social media real fast. And then we're going to get to work for a couple hours. We're going to do some martial power, color mana design for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Doing a mic check here real quick. Mic check, mic check. Dragons 5th edition. Doing a mic check here real quick. Mic check, mic check. Yeah, okay, that sounds like it's coming through. Okay. So let's drop that down in the background noise there so that doesn't get in our way. And let's see, I'm going to grab the link that we're live. And then I am almost done with my updates and social media postings here real quick. So let me just introduce myself real quick here and tell you what we got going on here. Well, my name is Phil Kearney. Hey. I create role-playing games. I illustrate them and then I publish them online. And I've been creating content for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition on the DMsGuild since 2018. And I've been a DM since 1987. I've been a Magic the Gathering enthusiast since 1994 and a freelance illustrator since 1999. And what got me started on building homebrew content in 5th edition was the Magic the Gathering settings that Wizards was publishing for use with Dungeons & Dragons. Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, Odyssey of Theros, and Strixhaven Curriculum and Chaos. 3 campaign settings, 3 different worlds or magic card sets from the Magic the Gathering card game using the color mana system, of course, white, blue, black, red, green mana. Everything you spend mana in different colors to cast spells in the card game. When they brought it over into D&D, they took the Ravnica, Strixhaven, and Theros settings and converted them into the Vancian spell slot system with the 8 schools of magic without attempting to provide any kind of like mechanical interaction with the color mana system that made Magic the Gathering so famous. So that was an opportunity for me to build out the color mana system. I'm a huge spell point enthusiast. I have been since 3rd edition with Scions and the Book of Nine Swords for marshals having a mana pool of their own to spend on combat and exploration effects. So we're taking that idea and we're merging it with the color mana pool from Magic the Gathering to create the color mana spell point variant rules. We already have them published for 2014 rules, the original 5e mechanics. They're already on the DMsGuild. But the big goal has always been to expand the spell points away from just being spellcasters, but for all classes in the game. So every character utilizes color mana for spells, powers, class features, and eventually when we get to it, ancestry feature like Dragon Breath, being able to spend mana to ramp up and use breath weapons more frequently, for instance, is a really easy one. So that's what we're doing right now. We're currently translating the Forgotten Realms Unearthed Arcana that got published a couple weeks ago. We still have the Spellfire Sorcerer and the Bladesinger Wizard to convert, and then we're going to be re-evaluating the Warlock, building it into a true Gish class, where it's got its full spell casting abilities. It has the high magic with the Mystic Arcanum, and we're going to weave in the martial power system utilizing the short rest mechanic of the Pact mana system in the Spellpoint Warlock that's already published on the DMsGuild. So we're going to be deconstructing that and rebuilding it so that that Warlock can use both all of the martial powers, its normal spell list for 1 to 5 with the Mystic Arcanum magic, or with the Pact magic, and then 11th through 20th level the Mystic Arcanum. So that's our endeavor today. Once this is all built, we'll have a unified language of converting the entire D&D game engine of 5e into a color mana spell point system that works with every single with all classes, all 14 classes including the Scion, any character, and integrating the Ravnica, Strixhaven, and Theros backgrounds into the new frame of the 5e24 game engine, how they've restructured how backgrounds and ancestries work together. So we've got a little bit of work to do. We've been playtesting the martial power system. We're 7th level right now in the dungeon crawl mega dungeon playtest space that we've created on my Discord server. and we'll be once we get all these basic class stuff done, we're going to be developing out Mage Tower mechanics, how to play Mage Tower, the college sport from Strixhaven. It's an ability test. It's like a skill challenge in the Curriculum of Chaos book, but we're converting it into a combat game, so that you can have PvP, building athletes of spellcasters and marshals, or blending them to expend mana to score points by throwing a ball through a hoop. I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be really fun. We're going to make it street towers, so that it's only like 3v3. So if you have 3 players, the DM can run a team of 3 characters as an opposing team, and then your players, the 3 of them, they can each play a character. If you have 6 people at your table, you could actually square off in 3v3 matches. A lot of fun potential there. So let's get started. Let's see. I'll fix my screen here real fast, and let me just capstone this by saying, if you think this stuff is cool, so we have new subscribers. Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate people taking an interest in the design work that we're doing here, as well as the artwork that we do in the morning. When I make a book, I build it, play test it, hand it off to an editor, get it back, do the page layouts, and then I do all the artwork for the book, and then I publish it. There's a bunch of books that we've already done this with. We've already published that are on the DMsGuild here that I've developed and did the artwork for. Today's playtest content that we're utilizing is in this master document here. It's read-only for you, but I mean, you can literally click here and read it. Here's the Forgotten Realms subclasses, and here's the most recent Arcana subclasses that Wizard released. I love 5e24. I love the new mechanics, the added capabilities that they're giving to players in the 2.4 version is more easy to translate into the mana system than the sparse mechanics that were offered in 2014. So everything that Wizards is doing is making it easier for us to have a holistic mana system utilizing their other, obviously more profitable IP, Magic the Gathering, more thoroughly blending the mechanics of MTG into your 5e game engine while still retaining everything about playing D&D that you're familiar with. So that's the kind of stuff that we do here. We expand on and create different subsystems or optional clamp-on variant rules to expand, enhance, and alter how you use the 5e game engine to run the type of games and campaigns that I want to run. So, and if I want to run them, the chances are there's other people out there who want to run them too. It's just a matter of doing this stuff so that they can catch the signal and dig through the content. So that's where we're at today. We're going to get started now. So yeah, this is the playtest content, and here is the UA document that we're working with. Right now we're looking at the Spellfire Sorcerer. Let's see, I'm going to peel out my window here and drop it down to here so I have it as its own thing. And then we're going to peel out the playtest document so it's in its own window. And welcome to folks that are tagging in to join the show today. I appreciate you guys being here. Here is the same document. Let's see, where are we at here? We're going to go to, I'm going to take this to the front end of the document so that we have access to the powers, because I think the powers are going to come in handy when we're rebuilding the Warlock today. But right now we're focusing on the Sorcerer. So let's take again, you can click the link in the description to access this document as a read-only document for you. All 14 classes and every subclass for them are in here. The only 2 we don't have translated yet is the Spellfire Sorcerer and the Blade Scener from the most recent Honor to Arcana. So once we finish that, we'll rebuild the Warlock chassis to utilize martial powers in addition to their spellcasting. And then from there, we can work on backgrounds and Strixhaven stuff. So looking forward to this. It's they keep pumping out new subclass stuff, so it keeps slowing down our conversion process. Okay, so we're looking at Spellfire Sorcery. Let me grab this. Sorcerer has gone through considerable conversion using this, and again, you can check it out below. But just to walk you guys real quick through the mechanics here. Here is the full chassis of the Sorcerer translated to utilize the. Oh yeah, I need to do the psionic feats. I haven't done that yet. Okay, we'll get into that eventually. Sorcerer. Here's all the features for it from level 1 to 20. All the new stuff that they did for 2024 that we translated into utilizing mana mechanics, cantrips, max level spell that you can cast from 1 to 20, the number of prepped spells that you can have, the amount of mana that you have on a long rest, and we added a new category called your maximum sorcery limit, or max sorcery. So first off, we don't have spell slots and sorcery points as a separate resource. We just have mana. And so the sorcerer has 100 mana at 20th level. And when we cast a spell, the amount of points you spend from your mana pool is equal to the level of the spell. So a 3rd level spell costs 3 mana. Normally a full caster would only have 80 mana, but with the extra 20 mana that you get from being a sorcerer, that puts us at 100 mana. So the least amount of mana that a character can have is the martial classes with 20 mana. And then you've got half casters, if they're not using martial powers and they're just using long rest mana. Half casters, artificers, paladins, and rangers, they have 40 mana on a long rest. The warlock has 40 long rest points that you start accumulating at 11th level, and then you get 20 short rest mana from level 1 to 20 as your pact magic. And then the wizard, the druid, all the full casters get 80 mana. And then the sorcerer gets 100. So you've got 20, 40, 60, and 80 mana on a character build, depending on what type of character you're playing. But it all pools together into the same mana pool. So it actually works really well. It works surprisingly well. So I'm really pleased about that. And then talking about max sorcery, we don't separate accumulating meta magic separately from spells. It's all just the same pool. So the maximum amount of prepared spells that you have include however much meta magic that you want. And we've cataloged all the meta magic down here in the list of meta magic, and it scales in cost. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the half casting progression of level 1, 5, 9, 13, 17 as a sorcerer. The higher level of a sorcerer you get, the more additional mana you can spend beyond the casting of the spell to add meta magic effects onto the spell that you're casting, whether it's a cantrip or a leveled spell. Either way, your max sorcery determines how much additional mana you can spend on meta magic to modify the spell on the fly. So you can see at 2nd level, when you get access to meta magics, you can start preparing them, and then your max sorcery is set at only 1 point, so you can only use 1st rank or 1 mana meta magics. And then at 5th level, your max sorcery limit is 2, so you could use a 2nd rank or 2 mana meta magic, or you could use 2 1st rank meta magics, each costing 1 point each. And by the time you get to 17th level, you can add an extra 5 mana on top of whatever spell it is that you're casting, and have 5 1st rank effects, or like 2 1st rank and a 3rd rank effect, or like a 2nd rank and a 3rd rank, or like a 4th rank and a 1st rank. 4 1st rank, and that'd be like 3 1st rank and a 2nd rank. Any combination that you want, the mana can go up to 5. So the meta magic options that we are allowing are very limited. There's I think over 100 meta magic options in 3rd edition and in Pathfinder version 1 that utilizes the same system of adding spell levels as you add on meta magic. And then the clerics could expend divine channel uses to further expand how much meta magic they used. And so we took the ones that would not be, like doubling the area of effect for a spell, for example, was a meta magic that existed in 3rd edition. But like say for a fireball or a moonbeam, it has an uncalculable change of how efficient a spell is put out for like 2 or 3 extra mana. It's too powerful to have like something that expands the area of effect. It's like that's something that we had to step past. What was some other? There was like repeating spell was just unnecessarily complicated. It's like the selection of meta magic that we have from level 1 with up to 4 meta magic. There's 23 options here, and your character gets a total of 25 spells from level 1 to 20. So literally you can spend 23 of your prepared spells on just meta magic options. Just use the bonus spells that you get from your subclass and cantrips, and just go with this very limited palette of spells that you could cast and just dump meta magic onto them constantly to change how they operate. Like, that is a completely viable course of action to follow utilizing this system. I'm level 6 right now in a Curse of Strahd campaign, playing a Selesnya Divine Sorcerer, Worshipper of Selûne. I use white and green mana. Virtually every spell I want to cast is either a sorcerer or a cleric as a divine sorcerer. They're all just naturally white or green spells, so it makes my mana pool incredibly efficient. So it's been a lot of fun building that, and as we go along, we'll be using my Patreon channel, which is linked down below. We'll be using that to build sample characters. We'll be taking Magic the Gathering cards and converting them into 20 level progression character options. We'll be able to use it to inspire additional powers, spells, metamagics, psionic disciplines, feats, and racial options for the 5e game engine moving forward. A lot of these things are so niche and low profile that they don't really warrant having separate products on the DMsGuild. So once we get these actual books rebuilt for 2024, we'll publish those on the DMsGuild where they belong. And then we can start using our Patreon to start punching out 2-page PDFs of Boros Swiftblade, Witherbloom Sedgewitch, Dimir Assassin. There's literally thousands of cards that we can use to Azorius Lawbinder, whatever. It's just all sorts of different cards that we'll be able to translate into the 5e game engine, utilizing the color language of the card and taking the effects that the character can do on the card and making those their highlight features in their character build with the subclasses, powers, spells, and feats that they select. We'll be able to basically mimic or duplicate any kind of card in MTG to utilize in the 5e game engine using this stuff. So, and of course, like all my other books that are linked down below, they're all 100% free preview. So you can read all this stuff. If you think it's cool, consider making a purchase to encourage similar behavior. The more of a book that sells, the more I know I should be focusing time and attention on making more of those. And so far, the Color Mana system has sold more books than anything else that I've done on the DMsGuild. But I would encourage you to check it all out. And if you think any of that stuff is cool, join my Discord community. Be welcome to ask questions. Hang out here with me in chat during our game design study hall. Let's get started. So we're looking at Spellfire sorcery. So that's going to be in the variants. The wild sorcery. I love the wild magic sorcerer. You don't gain any all the we have it so that all the subclasses get their 10 spells from level 3 to 9. Every subclass in the game gets 10 either spells, powers, or in the case of the ranger, a mix of 2. So that everyone's operating off of the same amount of options, but with completely different focuses. So everyone has the same breadth of options. Everyone has the same character building and fit for this scenario type of strategies in the deck building portion of what's so fun about playing D&D is building the characters, and then you run your campaign to see how well they play. So all the characters now, all 14 character classes, has the same variety of options, though they utilize mana in different ways. And so what I think is super cool about the wild sorcerer is instead of getting specific spells, wild magic, they just get 10 meta magics. So just over the course of your character, you pick 10 meta magics, and then all the prepared spells, all 25 prepared spells, you can just focus on preparing spells, because the subclass for the wild magic is going to automatically feed you wild magic is going to feed you meta magic options for you to modify your spells, which is from a flavor perspective, I think the best way to represent wild magic. So anyway, that's me. So cheers. Going down into the Forsaken Sorcery subclasses, we already translated the Ancestral Sorcery. We did that last session. Divine Soul is what I'm currently playing in game. And you can see here that he doesn't get a bonus spell list either. Instead, you get to choose cleric spells. So as you get 2 cleric spells at 3rd level when you pick up the meta magic. And every time, instead of gaining 2 at 5th, 2 at 7th, and 2 at 9th, instead it's every time you gain a new spell casting level, like at level 15, you get another spell, either divine or sorcerer, and it's of 8th level. So go ahead and add that to your spell list as a bonus spell. So the Divine Soul Sorcerer, like at 15th level, can have, like at 19th level, can have a cleric spell of every level if you want, and like picking 2 of one of them. Yeah, there we go. I think everything's sitting fine so far. And let's scroll down because I don't think we have. Yeah, Spellfire's not in here. So let's grab the Storm Sorcery. I'm just going to copy all of this so I can paste it and add in Spellfire. If you're coming in from social media, there was a picture of a character with burning wings wielding fire. She is inspired by Spellfire, and that is what we're working on first today. So Spellfire Sorcery. I'm just going to clip and update this list. Spellfire Sorcery, and then we have Spellfire Sorcery spells, and then you have sorcerer levels in the Spellfire Sorcery spell table list. Spellfire, blah, and then we'll erase all of these so we can fill them in with whatever the Spellfire spells actually are. We want to get rid of that, and then we want to get rid of most of this. We want to get rid of that, and we want to get rid of most of this. We want to get rid of that, and we want to get rid of most of this, and we want to get rid of that, and we want to get rid of that, and we want to get rid of most of this. And so we're just breaking this stuff down so we get it out of the way. There. All right, so let's go in. Let's take a look at what Spellfire Sorcerer does for us. Radiating raw magic potential. True that. An innate power stems from the source of magic itself, the weave. Wielders, get out of here, AI. No one asked for your assistance. Wielders of Spellfire tend to be adventurous souls with penchants for wandering. Okay. So level 3, Spellfire Burst. When you spend at least 1 sorcery point as part of the magic action or a bonus action on your turn, you can unleash one of the following magical effects of your choice. You can do so only once per turn. Equals Bolstering Flame. You or one creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself gains temporary hit points when you spend at least 1 sorcery point as part of the magic action or a bonus action, meaning when you cast a spell or use an effect that expends sorcery points, as like casting a spell as a bonus action, or casting a spell as a magic action, or utilizing a sorcery class feature, you get this effect for free. Temporary hit points equals 1d4 plus your charisma modifier. Radiant Fire, one creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself must succeed on a dex saving throw against your spell save DC or take d6 fire or radiant damage, your choice. And then we have our spells. So I'm going to look at our spell list. I'm going to add in our spell list first, and then I'm going to come back, and I already have ideas for Spellfire Burst. Spellfire Burst. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there, so hold on real quick. When you reach sorcerer level, specify Spellfire test, Cure Wounds, Guiding Bolt. Let's add these in. Cure Wounds. Guiding Bolt is just the most powerful spell in D&D. It's 1 mana for 4d6 plus advantage on your next attack roll. By level 9, it's not that big of a deal. Honestly, by level 7, it's not that big of a deal. But until then, as a level 1 spell, it abso-fucking-lutely cooks. So that is a powerful spell. I'm okay with it. Restoration. I have been using Guiding Bolt non-stop as a Divine Sorcerer in our Curse of Strahd game at 6th level. And honestly, with the amount of mana that I have, hold on. What is the amount of mana that I have? Let's go in here. Let's grab this as an alternate spell list, so we can look at the Sorcerer chassis. Keep an eye on that thing down to here. Scion, Sorcerer. I'm 6th level right now. I have 26 mana. That is a lot of mana. But again, 3rd level spell is 3 points. 2nd level spell is 2 points. 1st level spell is 1 point. And I'm breaking it up between white and green mana because I have a lot of white spells. Like Guiding Bolt is a white spell. It only costs 1 mana for me to cast it. But I can also expend 2 mana magic to, like, say, quicken it or twin, so I can hit 2 targets instead of 1 with it. Guiding Bolt is just the quintessential darling of the sorcerer. When you can get it on your list, do it. It's gorgeous. Cure Wounds, Guiding Bolt. There we go. Restoration, Scorching Ray. Scorching Ray is also a very good spell. And then Aura Vitality. And Dispel Magic. We can have on tap 7. Fire Shield, naturally. Wall of Fire. Tell me you are a Boros sorcerer without saying Boros. Greater Restoration. Flame Strike. Like if I were to implement Spellfire sorcery in my campaigns, I would 100% encourage playing an avatar or playing an Azamar. Thank you, a half angel, being the Boros Legion with actual angelic lineage from the that's up like higher command and soldiers, and just play a holy warrior. God, that'd be fun. Blend it with Paladin. That'd be sick. What a cool build. So okay, great. Let's look again at Spellfire Burst. God damn, what a cool build. Spellfire Burst. I would totally play that. Holy shit, that'd be fun. Spellfire Burst. I want to actually look at the rest of the features real quick, just to see if that thing progresses somehow. Absorb spell. You always have counterspell prepared. Additionally, whenever a target fails a saving throw against a counterspell, you regain sorcery points. Nice. Additionally, whenever a target fails the saving throw against a counter spell you cast. Wow, that is really, really good. Okay, own Spellfire. Your Spellfire Burst improves. You add your sorcery level to the temporary hit points gained from Bolstering Flame above, and D6 to the radiant damage increases to 3d6. That's at 14th level. At 14th level, we have access to 4th rank meta magic. Cool. As a bonus action, you gain the following benefits for 1 minute. Once you use this bonus action, that's all it does. Okay, as a bonus action, you gain the following benefits for 1 minute. Once you use this bonus action, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest unless you spend 7 sorcery points to restore your use of it. Burning Life Force. Once per turn, when you are hit by an attack roll, you can expend a number of hit dice up to a maximum equal to your Charisma modifier, minimum of 1. Roll the expended dice and reduce the amount of damage from that attack equal to the total rolled, plus your sorcerer level, and then flight. You gain a fly speed, 60 feet, plus hover. Spell Avoidance. When you're subjected to a spell or magical effect that allows you to make a saving throw to take only half damage, instead you don't take any. And if you succeed on the saving throw, and only half damage if you fail. You can't use this benefit if you have the incapacitated condition. It's basically like spell evasion. They call it avoidance. Cool. Okay, so yeah, we do get some stacking on the Spellfire Burst at 14th level. We see it progress. It becomes D4 plus 14. So that's 18. Okay. Let's see. So we have D6s. It'd be 14 plus D4, and it'll eventually be 20 plus D4 up to 24. And if we go 5th level was 6, so we have 5d6, that's 30. So it's either 21 to 24 or it's 5 to 30. 30 versus 24 is a modification of 1 die. Okay, so 1 second. I'm really thirsty today. I do not know why. Okay, this is how we're going to do it. When you... Hey, what's going on, Ryan? You seem like a machine grinding as much as I see one feet labor of love. This is what I do, man. This is my hobby within a hobby. Yeah, I'm here a lot. But I have family time that I spend off camera. But when I'm on camera, I'm at work. So I would rather do a lot of this stuff on stream to share the process. And all of my playtesters have come from streaming like this. I talk about stuff. They think it's cool. I invite people constantly to jump into my Discord and talk shop about this stuff. And from those people, I've recruited a couple dozen people over the past couple of years to play different stuff that I've had as playtesters. And then I give them a free copy of the book when they come out because they helped build it. So it's just good community building, I think. And you want to talk about your shit. It's so difficult to create a signal for anybody that's just a small indie that honestly building the book in front of people, this is eventually what I want to do with Kickstarters. I want to be able to run a Kickstarter campaign and build a special chat for the backers of the Kickstarter so that they can feed in and talk shop with me, be the playtesters, offer feedback and help build the book with me, knowing that I'm going to build the entire fucking thing here on stream. And once it's built, we do the layouts and then we do the artwork like we do in the mornings. So I build everything from ideation to publication. The only thing I don't personally do is edit. So there you go. So I'm around a lot. Cheers. Spellfire Burst. Okay, so the language here is when you spend at least one sorcery point as part of the magic action or a bonus. I'm going to actually gank this. I like to cutty pasty a lot. And then modify the language that I copy. So let's crack open a Word document. Drop it in here. What's up? That's fun. Yeah, right on. I've been named for the last 18 or so months. Nice. Funny thing is that the vast majority of my players I got hosting games at Spell Table, which is used for Magic the Gathering, nesting hobbies. There's I think there really is a decent crossover between MTG and D&D. That's a massive passion of mine. Obviously, I invest a ton of design time on these ideas around MTG plus D&D. I absolutely love it mechanically. It's so cool, and I think it's just a matter of making more people aware of what these tools are and how just on point they are with flavor. So I mean, I created it, but this was handed to me by my muse. She can do anything. It's just, can I hear the signal? So this was a gift, and my gift was that I got to be the one that experienced creating it, and for everyone else that it's just having it available to fuck around with and to build things with. When I start doing my own Kickstarter stuff, like I'll do elemental, like airbender type stuff, air, earth, fire, water. Instead of the 5 colors, I'll be using the 4 elements, and we'll be leaning into the martial power system and spell selection and rebuilding all of that to utilize the channeling mechanics that I use. So using action economy to generate mana to be able to expend on using the elements. So we can have a very small mana pool, but then have a lot of ways to generate the energy that we need to manipulate the elements over time to be able to do different effects. And it will still be basically the same 5e SRD published content that's in the Creative Commons license. I'll be able to use that to build an elemental themed 5e game world where temples and shrines devoted to different elemental kami would be the focus of the campaign. And I love that wushu style. I love wushu games. It's super fun. And I've asked, where'd I go? Here I am. I forget the company that made the Avatar 5e system. It's not 5e. It's Powered by the Apocalypse. It's like, I've got this thing that I'm doing for 5e. Are you guys interested? Like, nah, we don't want to do anything with 5e. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just do my own thing then. But it's 100% Avatar using earth, air, earth, wind, fire magic, earth, wind, fire, water elements as an elemental pool. So instead of having like white and black mana, you would have like earth and fire. Like if you're in a volcano temple, you would have fire and earth available to you to be able to wield and then channel elements in that manner for different martial and spell effects. That makes sense. Breaking down the 5e spell casting engine and the martial mechanics engine that we have here, and converting everything into an elemental flavor. So really easy, and it's non-IP. It's a 0 IP, and I can take all these mechanics and rewrite them with different language and be able to legally publish them without violating my terms of agreement with the DMsGuild for the MTG Color Mana IP. So all this stuff that we're doing here for Magic the Gathering with Color Mana in a 5-color system will be able to then translate into a 4-elemental system. And yeah, I'm really excited. But that's, assuming that solar flares don't destroy us, that's probably going to be like around 2027 that we build that. But it's in the works, so you'll see it. You'll see hints of it brewing over the next couple years as I stream. What's up? You have a Avatar? Yeah. I don't like it. I do not like PBTA like at all. I don't like the playbooks. I don't like. I like the tactical combat, the level of tactical decision making of the 3E, 4E, 5E game engine that WotC created. I like that depth, and you can actually check out the Elemental Keybook. Hold on, real quick. It's the first taste of it. If we go down to the Color Mana system here, and then go down to Elemental Key. This is the first taste of it, where we take the Way of the Four Elements monk and we convert it into a half-caster. So you have 50 spells and cantrips that are translated into air, earth, fire, water, and so you can, again, you gain mana. It's short rest mana, 1 to 20. It's just a monk, but that mana is devoted to one or more elements, and then the spells that you prepare or powers that you prepare. Like, say, Blur is devoted to air and water, which kind of makes sense, right? So if you have air mana or water mana, you can cast the Blur spell by spending 2 mana, at least 1 point of air or 1 point of water. Take your pick. If you're using single elements, like normal benders, then like I would be an air cleric, or I'd be an air bender, and so I'd only be using air mana for Blur. But if I'm a water bender, I could use water as well, and you can decide. I think it's best to have 2 elements, to have up to 2 elements, rarely more, because you can do cool things like steam is like water and fire, or like ash is earth and can be earth and fire, but it could also be air and earth. You can set 2 elements to describe like your para or quasi element from 2nd edition D&D or 1st edition D&D with the interplanes, where you had the core elements and then the spaces in between them, like magma, mud, silt, lightning, radiance, these different quasi and para elementals, which were combinations of 1 or 2 different elements. And then you have positive and negative energy, which is like life force, of like life and death. So that's like the 5th, like the chi of it is like the 5th element, either working in the positive or negative energy of adding or taking away life. So you can have like earth with negative chi, and then it becomes like a necrotic magic effect where it creates dust or ash. So like there's a lot of fun ways you can fuck around with it. You can take fire, like you can take fire with radiance, it becomes lightning. You could also you can take like air, you can take air and radiance and make thunder. Like a lot of fun ways to be able to bend it using the chi plus an elemental effect to be able to create these quasi effects. So anyway, this is the basic engine that goes on with it. But when we do a Kickstarter for it, we'll be translating all the language and using the Creative Commons, which is open license, to buff out this list. And then we'll take some of the martial power stuff that we've been building to build that out. And of course, it's got all the monk stuff in there that's also in the martial powers book here. So. But yeah, we already have the basics of that game engine up and running, and it works great, but I haven't translated like the full SRD of spells into an element or chi. So like Raise Dead could be like, we could decide along the way, like our body's earth. If they're earth, then it would be like radiance plus earth equals resurrection. Or it could be like earth plus negative energy equals undeath. So like you can basically bend any of the spells in that you need. Like Commune, for example. Normally you're communicating with gods. Well, it could just be a raw radiance spell. So if your character has access to radiance, you can gain access to this divine presence. And that adds kind of like the law versus chaos from first edition or like basic set, where you're either lawful, chaotic, or neutral. Only animals or unintelligent things were neutral. Otherwise, you're either an agent of law or an agent of chaos. Chaos is like destruction, disharmony, chaos, destruction, necrosis, while law was order, camaraderie, healing, faith, belief, inspiration. So like is a very good versus evil, like light versus dark force type of vibe to it from very early Beckme. That kind of got supplanted by the lawful good, the law chaos, good evil, the 9-point alignment system that overrode that simple law versus chaos. But in an elemental system where everything revolves around the 4 elements, and then you reintroduce that law versus chaos, suddenly you add this massive dynamic between these elements. Like a giant badger might channel earth magic, and because it's an animal, it's beast, it's just neutral. Or like elements, like an earth elemental doesn't normally have an opinion towards law or chaos. It's just simply an embodiment, a living embodiment of that element. It's neutral. So it would only be earth. It wouldn't have positive or negative. Characters could opt into that chi of working in the positive or negative, or both, or either, depending on how you build your character. Transforming the system and stuff. Yeah, it is. I made a mod to change my VTT system to Fallout into Resident. Oh, fun! And even Star Wars, since there's so much command and combat and such. Right on. Yeah, it takes a lot. If you want to, it's easy if you don't care. If it's a super light system that's designed to be popcorn and pretzel party fun, it doesn't really matter. If building like tactical combat, like a tactical role-playing game, is serious business. So if you really want to get serious about it, it takes a ton of design, constraint, testing, and revisions to be able to make it work properly. We've been working on this Martial Power document for about 18 months at this point, off and on. And there's probably like 250 episodes at this point of building it from scratch till present day. So, okay, so I'm on a tangent. So you got me monologuing, yo sly dog. So this is going to be when you... expend mana to modify a spell with meta magic. You can unleash magical power around you, period. One of the following magical effects of your choice. You can do so once per turn. You can do so only once per turn. And then we have Bolstering Flames. Click. And then we also have Radiant Fire. So separate our shit. There. You or one creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself gains temporary hit points equal to 1d4 plus your charisma modifier. And your spell level at 14th level. So it does take us to 20. It does take us to 30. Perfect. Okay, so Bolstering Flames. You or one creature you can see within range of yourself gains temporary hit points equal to 1d4 plus your charisma modifier. Bolstering Flames. When you expend mana to modify a spell with meta magic, you can unleash magic power around you. You can unleash residual magic power around you. You can do so. You can choose to sculpt this power in one of two ways, limited to doing so only once per turn. Bolstering Flames. You or one creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself gains temporary hit points equal to 1d6 per mana expended on 1d6 per mana expended. What's the word I want to use? One gains temporary hit points equal to 1d6 per mana expended to modify a spell with meta magic. It's just 1d6. It's very simple, but again, your entire fucking mana pool is meta magic. So I could hit somebody with a cantrip and then decide to modify that spell with meta magic, and then you'll gain the benefit of getting temporary hit points for being nearby me. Like I could ding somebody with like freezing, like Ray of Frost. Blip, I just dealt D8 damage to you. Your movement is slowed after a failed dex save. And I'm going to spend that 1 point to, like, say, modify the damage to instead be acid damage instead of cold. So now I've hit you with acid. I spent the 1 point of meta magic to do it on a cantrip, and my neighbor's going to get a d6 out of that. I can do that literally every round for however long I can keep my mana going. So I don't feel like you need to add the charisma modifier. But we'll see that come in later at a higher level. But this allows us to, and again, so at level 2, 5, 9, 13, 17, at second level we can spend 1 mana on meta magic. At 5, 2, 9, 3, 13, 4, and at 17th level we can spend 5 mana on meta magic. And with this, when we do, we're going to hand out 5d6 worth of temporary hit points to our ally. Conversely, Radiant Fire. One creature that you can see within 30 feet of yourself must succeed on a dexterity saving throw against your spell save DC, or take 1d6 fire or radiant damage, your choice, per mana expended to modify a spell with meta magic. There, easy peasy. So that's a good feature. It's going to encourage you to lay into using meta magic more often. That's kind of what they're saying in the actual class feature itself. Where'd you go? There you are. It's saying when you expend sorcery points as part of a action or a bonus action, which is essentially saying been casting a spell that's been modified by our sorcery points. But you could also, like, for example, we have it so that you can spend sorcery points to maintain concentration on your innate sorcery rage feature. Like, it's supposed to end after a minute, but at the end of that minute, if you wanted to, you could tap 1 mana to maintain concentration on it as a first level spell. And you can keep it going for however long you can keep concentration. So it gives you a lot more life. You can expend 2 points to gain another use of it back. So you can expend sorcery points to regain uses of stuff. And in that turn that you use it, but it has to be part of an action or a bonus action to trigger that effect. So like regaining, like for example, you can spend 7 mana to regain your Crown of Spellfire feature, but it doesn't require an action. So it doesn't qualify for casting or for triggering the Spellfire language, Spellfire Burst, thank you. It has to be part of a magic action or a bonus action. So that limits its uses. So we're going to, yeah, I'm good with that. So that feature sits nicely. It scales, so it has proper usage. Now we're looking at level 6, absorb spells. So let's go to level 6. Absorb spells. I love spell point sorcerers. They're so fucking cool. Just such a cool class. I love it. I love it. So fun. Sorcerers and Artificers are the 2 classes I think I enjoy playing the most. I like building for Warlocks, but I like playing Sorcerers. You always have Counterspell prepared. I'm cool with that. And additionally, whenever a target fails the saving throw against a Counterspell you cast, you regain 2 mana. It's a 3rd level spell to cast Counterspell, and you could get back D4 of them. I'm just going to set it so you get 2 mana back. So if you succeed, you only spent 1 point. If the target fails a saving throw against a counter spell, you regain 2 mana. There you go. So, yeah, cast counter spell as often as you want. It's only going to cost you 1 mana. You're going to put up for 3, but if you're successful, it only costs 1. What else you got? Honed Spellfire. Your Spellfire Burst improves. Your Spellfire Burst. You become. You can. You can manifest Spellfire without using meta magic. As a magic action or bonus action, you can expend a number of mana up to your max sorcery limit to channel Spellfire without casting a spell modified. You can manifest Spellfire without using, how do I want to word this? You no longer require meta magic to channel Spellfire. As a magic action or bonus action, you can expend a number of mana up to your max sorcery limit to use the spell you can expend a number of mana up to your sorcery limit to channel to use the Spellfire Burst. As a magic action or bonus action, you can expend a number of mana up to your max sorcery limit to use the Spellfire Burst without casting a spell modified by meta magic. You can do so once during your turn. There. Now you can just use your battery just to crack off magic damage or to heal people. Well, it's not healing. It's temporary hit points, isn't it? Let's look at it again. Bolstering Flames. Yeah, 10 hit points. 10 hit points are great. So you can either just keep pumping temporary hit points onto your ally within 30 feet as an action or a bonus action, independent of any spell, but you can still use a spell, and the meta magic chain effect can go over here to do something else. So there you go. So you can use it independently. And I think that's a better narrative, in that you're by 14th level, you've been channeling Spellfire as part of your spellcasting for so long that you can just, Muad'Dib no longer needs the sound module to be able to attack. That's essentially what we have happening here. And then at level 18, Crown of Spellfire. See all the fucking cool shit you can do when you have a structured mana system that's consistent throughout all the classes. Like that half casting, full casting structure exists like everywhere inside. Like the Scion, it's discipline die, and it's the maximum amount of psionic energy that you can pump in uses that same sorcery limit progression that's present for all the martial characters like the barbarian, the rogue, the fighter, the monk. Using the power structure, wielding power with mana as a half-casting character, using that same 1, 5, 9, 13, 17 structure. And all your proficiency bonuses are structured around 1, 5, 9, 13, 17. The magic items can scale, where you get access to common and then uncommon, then rare, very rare, and legendary at 1, 5, 9, 13, 17. The entire game breaks at those basically every 4 levels is when you hit a new tier of power. It's not the 4 tiers of power. It really should be 5 tiers of power, starting at level 1, 5, 9, 13, 17. And if you structure your game in that mentality instead of the 4 tiers of play, that 4 tiers is almost like an intentional misnomer, distracting you from how elegantly the 5e game engine revolves around the five ranks of progression in your character. Like the Bastion campaign that we built, it revolves around that five rank system as well. Everything that I build, it essentially rotates around 5 ranks, like Ravnica Renown, Strixhaven college credits, and Theros Piety also revolves, or rather parallels, the 5 rank system of 1, 5, 9, 13, 17. It all gels together really, really nicely, and it's a shame that WotC doesn't acknowledge that mechanic, that just that linear scaffolding that makes the game so much more manageable as a DM to consider your scale of like, when should I be giving people magic items, what kind of level spells should I be giving them access to, what kind of creatures, like the CR coincides with that stuff as well. So it's up to CR1, up to CR5, up to CR9, up to CR13, and then anything above 13 CR is your 5th rank of power in monsters. And that has worked really smoothly throughout Spelljammer, throughout the martial power playtesting that we've been doing. It all elegantly folds together in that 5 scaffold, and it really is a shame that Wizards doesn't lean into that as a mechanical focus, because it would help them be able to break out of your campaign dies in the 3rd rank. Because like at level 13 plus, that's generally when they stop supporting content, because your characters are so capable. It's hard to put them inside of a pre-built adventure. But they're not really meant to be at that point. They're meant to be controlling the universe and calling the shots and settling grudges with NPCs that they've been accumulating hate for since level 1. By the time they're level 13, they're so powerful that they're basically just checking things off of their shit list in the campaign. Every successful 20 level campaign that I've ran, and I've ran multiple 20 level campaigns, both in 5e and in 30, the way that it's successful is you start the characters at level 1 with weakness. I generally don't let them fight, like even engage in combat, until level 3. It's all Scooby-Doo, sneaking around, learning the lay of the land, learning shit so that they can survive to level 3, and then they start gaining subclasses, right, in 5th edition. And they start fighting stuff, and by 5th level, enemies start to arise. And so from 5th to 9th level, they start digging their way up the ladder towards bigger, badder bosses. And by 9th level, they've chewed through the first defense layer of the big bad, and now they're in the 2nd layer of the big bad. From level 9 to 13, they're chewing through low-level lieutenants and making a name for themselves. And by the time you hit 13, you've now gotten the attention of the big bad directly, and the world threat becomes known and descends upon the characters, and then they have to survive that onslaught until they get up to level 17, where the tables flip. Now they're strong enough to start settling grudges with everybody. Any of the generals that have gotten away, any guilds or organizations that have been able to scuttle into the shadows, and the big bad themselves, they all get reckoned with. So you start just checking these guys off. Like each level, you eliminate a threat that has yet to be resolved, which is like the idea of having multiple threads. Like you present 3 plot lines or like 3 adventure challenges, and the team can only pursue one at a time. One disappears and gets resolved by somebody else and is replaced by something new. And the second thing that they didn't resolve becomes worse. And so when they go, if they ignore that second path, like 3 or 4 options, like we're going to work with these new things. Like every time you resolve a path, you open up a new path, and then you get rid of one of the options. But whatever they neglect becomes more powerful. So as the campaign goes along, whatever they've been neglecting becomes worse and worse, that it eventually has to be dealt with. So every time you hit a new rank, 1, 5, 9, 13, 17, you reassess what threats had they not gotten to, and how can they bend into the current storyline as a more aggressive threat, a callback to the team's neglect or force or shortfallings of not dealing with that problem, and now it becomes a bigger problem. Do you want to address it now, or do you want to address this other big 5th rank challenge, this 5th level challenge that has now been introduced? We're going to take out that one. And they great. Well, that problem you've been neglecting is now going to escalate to a 9th level threat. And this other thing, let's just introduce a new idea. So now you're juggling between these 3 things, basically creating this braid of what plot hooks are we going to follow, because they're all leading to the 20th level, where you clean shop on all of it. And if you've been DMing well, I typically run a campaign from level 1 to 20 in about 270 hours. And over those 270 hours, your team gets a grudge and gets a hating for somebody. And the more they hate somebody they haven't resolved, the more you want to make them their big bad, because that becomes more and more satisfying for them to check that box and remove them from the board when they finally do it. Or they could knock out somebody that they hate a lot and only to find that he was just a front man for this darker evil that the team then becomes acquainted with over the next 4 or 5 levels. They build a hate for that instead. Now we're at 13th level and we know who the real threat is. And by that point, you're fucking around with gods, going to other planes of existence, recarving the fundamental nature of reality, and that becomes the scope of your campaign. Level 1, you're just picking your nose, trying to figure out how am I going to get my first Pikachu. And by 20th level, you're realizing that all these critters that have been enslaved by your society have feelings and their own emotions, and that they should be allowed to be freed. So that becomes your quest, and you destroy the Pokédex or whatever. You know, whatever your campaign is. So that's, anyway. So, yeah, using the 5 ranks is a much better way to structure your campaign, because it's just natural power breakpoints. The 4 tiers of 1, 5, 11, 17, that's a false narrative. It's not real. It's the real shit is in the 5 ranks. So anyway, that's my opinion over 30 years of DMing. So I've been DMing since 1987. I have opinions, but the opinions that I have successfully run campaigns from level 1 to 20 with people that are dedicated to find out what happens next. Even though I don't give a fuck about the character's backstory. It's all focused on what did you do today and how does that change the world tomorrow. And if you can figure out a way to make your character's backstory work in the things that you're doing, then that becomes your story. But that's your responsibility. I'm running a world here and I'm thinking about what's coming next, not what's in your past. If you want to bring up your past, you make it work in the future. And you bring it into what we're doing, and you give me the reasons why this is matching with your background so that you can bend that narrative, and that's your time to role play by adding these elements in. And if they're cool, I'll pick it up and run with it. But that's your place to find that space. That's how you set the tone of what type of a campaign is it. Is it silly slapstick? Is it dark past serious business type of campaign? The energy that you bring as a player to the table determines what is that vibe. And what are you offering as a co-DM, as a co-creator? How are you taking the events of the world and making them work with your character's backstory that you imagine? That's not my job. My job is to create an environment where you can insert your character to make a difference in the world. And whatever motives you have to make a difference in the world, that's on you. But the world is going to keep evolving around you as long as you keep playing. And that empowerment, that ability to take control and to carve out this narrative and to make that story your own alongside me of running the game, I think that's why people keep showing up. So I've got opinions. I've got very biased opinions that I'm very confident in because they are repeatable effects. But I digress. Crown of Spells. Crown of Spellfire. Let's figure that out. Again, here's another example. They have the innate sorcery. The innate sorcery. Okay, that's actually a really good point. Hold on real quick. Let's take it to here. Let's look at innate sorcery real quick before we chew on this feature here. You get innate sorcery at level 1. They haven't mentioned this. They have not yet mentioned it, have they? Innate sorcery. This has been modified for use with the mana system. So, as a bonus action, you can unleash the magic coursing through you for 1 minute, during which you gain the following benefits. Spell save DC for your sorcerer increases by 1. At later levels, this bonus increases equal to your max sorcery limit. So at level 17, you get a +5 to the DC of all of your of all your spells, which is fat. And then you also have advantage on attack rolls on sorcerer spells that you cast. So like Guiding Bolt is an attack roll spell. I'd want to have innate sorcery on while I'm using Guiding Bolt, because I'm automatically going to have advantage on the attack rolls just to set off the spell. And then whether I hit or not with the spell, I'll still have the advantage set up. Scorching Ray is something I also get at 3rd level. That's another spell attack that's also incredibly useful with my innate sorcery. And then you can use this feature twice, and you regain all expended uses of it when you finish a long rest, and 1 when you finish a short rest. In addition, as a 1-minute ritual, you can regain a number of mana equal to your max. It's in here in the innate sorcery, but it's kind of its own thing. In addition, as a 1-minute ritual, you can regain a number of mana equal to your max casting level. You can use this feature once. Max casting level gained as a sorcerer. Gained as a sorcerer. Because I could be like a 19th level wizard, 1st level sorcerer, and with this, I would only get 1 mana back because I only have 1 level in sorcerer. But if I was a 19th level sorcerer, 1st level wizard, I would get 10 mana back at 19th level as a sorcerer. Big difference, but that's the reward of staying single class. You can stack up all these low level effects on your character by multi-classing a bunch of stuff. But when everything's built around like the max rank of power that you've gained, or the max sorcery limit that you have, or the max spell level that you can cast, you can get a whole bunch of low-level features, but all of them are capped by how far you're willing to go in each class. You get a bunch of stuff, but none of it is overwhelmingly powerful. It's only when you focus on a single class from 1 to 20 that it becomes just ridiculously powerful to fight. So you either get verisimilitude and a breadth of options with a bunch of multi-classing, or you focus in on a specific channel of power that you become a god at wielding by 20th level. Your choice. Level 2, I want to look at the rest of this innate sorcery stuff. Meta Magic we talked about already. Subclasses. Okay, so level 7, Sorcery and Incarnate. While your innate sorcery feature is active, at the end of the 1-minute duration, you can choose to expend the duration by expending 1 mana and maintaining concentration on it as a level 1 spell. The effect ends when you choose to, or you lose concentration. In the books that we have down below in the MTG bundle, I've pulled open the document, looked at with you guys multiple sessions in the past. If you want to dig through all my content and just watch it and catch up, you're welcome to. I'll just explain briefly. Concentration with the mana system is you tap mana, and while that mana is tapped, it isn't expended yet. It's in use. It's tapped. And so when you're maintaining concentration, you can tap multiple spells up to your max spell limit to have multiple spells that you're concentrating on at the same time. But as you do that, it ratchets up the DC of concentration effects on you. With this mana system, it's not when you take damage, do you make a Constitution saving throw to maintain concentration or not? It's every time you make a saving throw, you measure the result against your concentration DC. It doesn't wait. It actually makes saving throws really fucking dangerous. If I'm a 17th level sorcerer and I'm maintaining concentration on 10 levels worth of buff spells, my concentration DC is going to be 20. It's 10 plus the amount of mana that I have tapped at the moment. And if I get hit with, say I get toppled, someone hits me with a topple mastery and tries to trip me, I now have to make a strength or a dexterity saving throw or get knocked prone. Who gives a shit about being knocked prone, right? Who fucking cares? Big deal. Well, I now have to roll a 20 on either that dexterity or that strength saving throw, or I just lost 10 levels worth of spells. It's going to take 10 rounds for me to get all that shit stacked back up on me if it's first level spells. You know, however many spells I had stacked, I now have to spend all that mana to do it. But I have 100 mana to do it with. So this really fun chicken or the egg sort of thing. It's like, I've got a ton of mana. Is that abusive? No, because I can knock down your mana at any time by hitting you with a saving throw. Well, that really fucking sucks. Why would I want to play that way? Because if you play that way, you can stack on as many concentration effects as your spell levels. Like, oh, That's really compelling. So now your character's like, how much shit can I stack up on my characters but not be in harm's way? And suddenly your Gish frontline, all your martial characters keeping enemies off of your back rank casters becomes incredibly important. So now you're thinking about, how can we keep the wizard from getting dinged? Because he's got haste on 3 guys right now, and he's maintaining Yolanda's Radiance or whatever. Has like a shitload of buff spells going on, or like the Druid over there, he's got Polymorph and he's got a Moonbeam going at the same time right now, and the Cleric has Spirit Guardians, Bless, and Spiritual Hammer all going at the same time right now, and if he fails a saving throw of a DC 18, he just lost all that shit, and our Mega God Tank just became a Squire again, and he's going to have to spend a lot of time to rebuild that stuff back up. So your front line is going to want to use martial power effects that force targets to target them, deflect, like redirect attacks to other martial characters on the team that can take the hit, or to like use protection feats and powers to tank the damage for the caster, so that like you do have to make saving throws if you get hit, but again, if you make a saving throw, that comes first. Like if you get hit by a fireball, the main threat is the dexterity saving throw. Whether you pass or fail, you'll take damage, but you don't have to also save for the damage. That's double tapping the same spell. That's not fair. So we lead with the saving throw to half the damage, and if you do, great. You survive the concentration effect, here's your damage. Bob's your uncle. But if I just walk up and stab you with a knife, you're going to have to make a saving throw against the damage that I dealt to you. And then if I topple you, that is a separate effect. And I'm going to, because that comes after the damage, now I'm going to make you make another saving throw against that. It's going to be a strength or a dex. So like getting marshals on your casters is super fucking dangerous in 5e24 using this system. And that's the level of tactical complexity that is missing in, I think a lot of people are looking for in the 5e gameplays. It's like, where's the challenge? It's like wizard, like casters like put the game on easy mode. It's like, well, if concentration is fragile, the characters can be tough. And you can punch out a shitload of spells with your mana, but if you try to concentrate on anything, chances are you're going to lose it. And that's like a weird thing to say in D&D. Most D&D characters rarely worry about losing concentration just by staying off the front line. They're typically pretty safe. Not with this. The shit's a lot more aggressive and dangerous. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Check out the books. They all have free previews. They're worth looking into. We're going to rebuild all of them for 5e24 game engine to lean into these ideas more, but they're all there already. They're just in their first edition model of it. Well, second edition is going to be much more sleek, efficient, and just a better game engine in general. Anyway, I'm rambling. In addition, if you have no uses of innate sorcery, you can expend 2 mana while you take the bonus while you take the bonus action to activate it. So if I don't have any innate sorcery, I can turn it on with 2 mana, and then. Arcane Apotheosis. You no longer need to expend 2 mana to activate your innate sorcery if you have no uses left. You basically, all you gotta do is spend a bonus action, you can turn it on. But if you want to maintain it forever, your concentration doesn't end until it's disrupted or you give it up. So I spend 1 point of mana, I turn on my innate sorcery, and until my concentration is taken, it is on until I take a long rest. So it's again, it rewards you for playing smart and using your powers together. So that's how innate sorcery works in general. So what we're going to do is hone Spellfire. You no longer require meta magic to channel fire while your innate sorcery is active. As a magical bonus action, you can expend mana there. So it ties in. So now the honed Spellfire, not using a spell, you can do that if you're using your innate sorcery. Here, we introduce you to the idea, and then while you're casting magic, you can wield the spare magic that's left over. But you can't afford to have innate sorcery on all the time yet. Your character's too low level. You don't have a lot of uses of it. It's expensive to use. You don't even have the ability to duplicate it multiple times. So I don't want this Spellfire Burst feature to be limited only when you have your innate sorcery active. But by 7th level, you can turn it on at will, and you can maintain concentration to keep it on all day if you want. So now by the time we get to 6th level, the class level is too low. So we can't really utilize innate sorcery properly at 6th level, not thoroughly, but by 14th level, innate sorcery is easy peasy. So you're gonna be able to have it on all the time if you want. So that's the proper time to implement that. So at level 18, Crown of Spellfire as well, while your innate sorcery feature is active, while your innate sorcery feature is active, as a bonus action, you gain the following benefits for 1 minute. You gain the following benefits for the duration of your until innate sorcery feature ends. And again, it's concentration. So you turn it on, you get it for a minute for free, and at the end of the minute, you can tap 1 mana to turn it on, giving you a baseline concentration DC of 11 to keep it going. At 18th level, maintaining 11 is pretty easy, but then you're going to stack on other concentration spells on top of it. So you're naturally ratcheting up the difficulty of maintaining concentration by stacking spell effects on top of your innate sorcery. Here's the important point. At 19th level, you can sustain up to level 10 magic. Even though there's only 9 levels of magic, we get 10. So you can, that's just a staple of the mana system that we've had since 2018. With this new innate sorcery feature, that 10th level of slot can now be spent to maintain innate sorcery and still maintain concentration on a 9th level spell at the same time, stacking up your, like, filling your entire deck. So I love how elegantly that folded together. That tickles me pink seeing that. I love it. Again, this innate sorcery feature, it's awesome. Wizards doesn't know what to do with it, but it's an awesome tool that we can use. So I chide and mock Wizards because D&D is such a great game. I honestly just don't think, like, this is so far off the rails of what common D&D is. I don't expect them to pick this stuff up, but this is the kind of shit you can do with the 5e game engine if you aren't constrained by how Wizards build subclasses. This is a lot more than just get a bunch of extra phase steps, you know? So anyway, I mock them and I make fun and chide them because I'm so passionate about the game. I truly love it. And they would never pick up these ideas. They're so far off the rails that it just doesn't jive. It's too much of a risk. Small couture designers like me, little indie developers, we can take risks like this. And really, it's like fashion designers, right? The runway stuff, the couture fashion design that you see in Italy and Paris, that's not Walmart stuff. That's not Target. That's not commercial stuff. That is art. That is, look what you can do with materials that are available for clothing. What can we design and what can we express? Us third-party couture designers in the game sphere space that utilize D&D Beyond and Kickstarter campaigns and Patreon, whatever, operating out on our own, this is the kind of work that we can do that can take the game engine, like the 5e game engine, and show like what you can do with that game engine if you, and it can be as good or even better of a actual mechanical game to play 5e than what 5e is. It's just a matter of accessing the information, being interested in it, absorbing it, and then implementing it into your games. So I don't expect a lot of people to use these things, but if your DM and your players are into this kind of shit, it's super cool. So like I said, I build documents from the kind of games that as a DM I like to run. These are the kind of games I like to run. This is how I like to see characters expressed. This is very similar to 3rd edition design in character building, like these synergies that you can create and these power curves that you can build and the way that you can express characters through the mechanics that we're building into the 5e game engine. It's very 3E in vibe, and 3E had the best fucking vibe. there's an entire subculture of just white room character creations because there were so many different ways to build characters. You're basically kit bashing or deck building characters in the D&D 3e game engine, and then you could run campaigns to see how well they run. It was so much fun. I grew up. I spent 12 years doing that. It was a fucking blast. Hey, what's up? Hey, Deadlight. I love the idea. I've thought of fusing MTG and D&D for years, but never got it right. Can't wait to potentially use your stuff if it's in both. It's in this playtest. It's read only for you. Hey, okay, so you're new. Welcome to the mix. Grabbing. Here we are. All of the books are already published for 2014 rules. They're already on the DMsGuild. They've been out since 2018. Here's a link. It takes you to all the books. They all have 100% free preview. So you can use them, play them, run to 20. God bless you if you're willing to buy them to support these kind of shenanigans. But I'd rather you be able to look at the material because you're an enthusiast and decide if I'm worth your time later on. The playtest document that I'm building inside of right now is right here. And it has all 14 classes with every single subclass ever published by Wizards of the Coast, both graduated 2024, all the UAs, as well as the 2014s that haven't been served yet. They're all in this playtest document right here, which is what we're working on in real time right now. So I'm on page, if you want to open up that document, I am on page 203 of 254. It's got everything in here, everything except for the spell list. The spell list, you can just pluck that from the MTG here, and you can pluck it. Here's the revised 5-color manas. The actual core mechanics book has the original version. We realized that we can make the color mana picking selection option a lot better. So this is a pay what you want. It's pay what you want, but it's silver medal status. So even though it can be free, about 200, maybe around 205 people have actually purchased it at this point. God bless you guys. But it explains the 5 colors. It gives you some basic mechanics, like aspects of Magic, like what they would represent inside the 5e game world. The damage types broken down into white, blue, black, red, green. There's 10 types of damage broken into. Each has 4 each. These are reinforced by thousands of Magic the Gathering cards. Like for example, lightning. There's like 2 cards in Magic the Gathering that aren't red that make reference to lightning. There's like 200 lightning cards and only 2 of them are blue. So like obviously lightning is red. But otherwise these colors all line up. BPS don't have any damage type, but like in Magic the Gathering, poison for example, on all the creatures like black arachnids and scorpions and shit are black, and they got like snakes and stuff like that are green. Poison, like a poison counter effects in the MTG deck, it's almost like it's like 98% black and green mana that you're going to see poison counters coming at your characters, at your card decks. And so you take the aspects of Magic, like the mechanics that kind of go into the narrative, plus the damage types to get your grid. And it explains in the core mechanics book that's linked down below, in the bundle. Like for example, my favorite example, of course, is Fireball. Fireball is a red spell only. It's a 3rd level spell. It's 3 mana. 1 point is red. The other 2 can be whatever you want. So if you're playing a Boros character that's naturally aligned to white and red mana, you would restrict your character intentionally to only use white and red mana because that's your narrative, which means that you can automatically pick wizard spells that are either white or red. But like if you want a blue spell and you don't cast blue magic, you would either research this spell in your downtime at your guild using your renown to gain access to the archives for free. Time spent equals spells gained. Or when you're preparing your spells, you could prepare it once as it's like a blue spell, like Blur is a blue spell. So like you could prepare Blur, it's blue, I don't have access to it as Boros, I'm going to prepare it a second time. So now it's a white spell for me instead of blue. But when I have the time, since I'm using Blur, I'm going to go research Blur to be blue. And in the Theros setting, the higher your piety is, depending on what god you have piety with, that's the level of spell that they can grant you in the color that Eroas, that's his name, Eroas. I'm weak with the Theros gods, but Eroas is white and red mana. So if you have like 37 piety with Eroas, that means that you're going to be able to, he'll be able to provide you spells that normally aren't white or red, like blur. He could give you blur as white or red, whichever one you please. And like with 37 piety, you could get like a 7th level spell. Anything up to 7th level. Once your piety gets to 51, it could be any spell up to 9th level. He will be able to give to you when you pray to him as your god. When you're preparing your spells, he'll be able to bend the mana of that spell so it works in the mana pool that you've devoted yourself to, because you're so devoted to that god. What's like AO? No, I'm Theros gods are my weakest. But there's like the 5 primary gods, one for each color, and then there's 10 minor gods that are color pairs. So like if like Thalia, thank you, Thalia. She's the goddess of the sea. She's blue mana. So once your piety rises in enough with Thalia, she'll just feed you spells that are all blue. They're always blue. And then if you pair off from her into the 4 sub god, the minor gods that all have blue plus something else, you can have this pantheon of 5 gods that all rotate around blue, paying homage first to Thalia, but then also being able to feed into the ethos of the other 4 gods that also utilize blue mana. So you create your own personal pantheon based on what colors of mana that you want to use. So it's fun. It's a really fun way to play it. And then you can get involved in god politics. Like Eros would have to pay tribute to both the god of red and the god of white, because Eros has both white and red mana. So you're playing to both of those major gods. So you can split your mana pool between those 2 colors. So now you're only working with Eros and whatever the god of white and whatever the god of red mana is. Like that's that's like your 3 god pantheon there. And so you'll be able to work out of those colors as well. So when you're gaining piety, you can be adding piety, like half the amount of piety to all these other gods that are tangentially related to the color that you're promoting. And there you go. That's piety. So, but it directly impacts the spells that you get access to. So, but I mean, you could ignore that if you want to. You could just say, yeah, I have 100 points of mana, and I'm Boros. I'm going to cast a blur spell, and narratively, I just say I'm casting with white magic. I'm not going to hold myself. I'm not going to limit my spell selection, because that's a personal choice. I'm not going to limit myself to spell selection. But from the DM side, the DM is always assuming that the NPCs are always using magic in the color that they use, and they've either researched it or somehow gained access to that blur spell to be white. So when you're in combat with them, the DM is describing the spell and what color that spell is. Like, I'm not going to use blur with white magic. Say I'm playing let's say Witherbloom, black and green magic out of Strixhaven. When my Strixhaven Sedgewitch casts blur, she uses black mana to express that. But since she's an NPC, I can give her whatever mana pool and whatever spell colors I want. I don't have to play by the rules. Like, I can give them any backstory to have gotten access to those spells. And so if you get into the Sedgewitch's lair after you defeat her, you might find a bunch of scrolls that have all these spells and colors that your team wants. So that treasure becomes valuable. It's like, I don't have to research these. I can just lift these spells and absorb their magic or put them in my magic book, and now I have access to blur as a black magic spell when normally it would be blue. And my Demir character loves that, because although I already had it available in blue, being able to cast it in black means I can mix up my mana pool more and still have a really good defensive spell without having to devote mana to black, to blue mana if I don't want to. So like, you have all these different options that are available, these different degrees of narrative constraint that you yourself as a player place upon yourself, or that you guys can establish as your session 0. We're going to be very strict with our magic. We're going to use actual color pool, dividing up our mana into different colors, or it can just be a loose narrative of, I've got my mana pool, I'm just going to restrict myself to spells that are the colors that I like. Or it could be very loose, and it's that I've got mana, I've got spells, I'm just going to describe them in the color that my character is, because that's how 5e works, and that's fine. Everyone can operate differently, or everyone can decide as part of session 0, this is the gear that we're going to run the campaign in. But the DM always runs with the most severe level. When I'm fighting in a Lithid, it is using black and blue mana specifically. So all the like all the gear that you find on it, all the spell capabilities that it has, all its psionic effects, it's all going to be blue and black effects. Unless it's not. And then it's going to be like, oh, it's not. Why is it wielding white magic instead of black? What kind of an illithid is this exactly? That's weird. And that becomes a narrative point because the DM is consistent with the narrative language, even though the players are allowed to bend it because their characters can bend things. That's why they're characters. If this stuff is making sense, that's what this whole thing is all about. So, anyway. Hey, what's up, Steve? Clothis, God of Fate, a red-green MTG god. Clothis, thank you. Yeah, oh, great. If there you go. Nice. Yeah, Theros. I'm really weak on Theros, so I'm trying. I'll be spending time learning about the gods, and then looking through the Theros book about like what their piety progression is, what they naturally give you, and then building out the color mana granting system around that to reward because you can have piety in more than one god, right? So depending on where you're stacking up your piety, you can get access to different colors. Anyway, that's the idea. So. I digress. Thank you for letting me. Go on that diatribe. I do love to rant about this stuff. I rant about that particular topic maybe every 2 or 3 episodes. But now we understand what the innate sorcery magic is, and we can see that the Spellfire hasn't used innate sorcery at all. In fact, the ancestral sorcerer from the the Arcana UA that just came out. That, I believe, is the only sorcerer that actually does anything with innate sorcery. And it's a really huge miss. They implemented this new mechanic, but they didn't actually integrate it into the character by having subclass features rely upon it. So we rebuilt those features so that it's restricted at first, becomes something you can easily replenish at higher levels, and then once you cap out your character, it's just free, and it just takes a bonus action to turn it back on again. So you don't even really need to maintain concentration on it anymore. You can just pop it on and it keeps going. Unless you're sustaining a high level effect that's using innate sorcery, then maybe you'll spend a point of mana just to keep it on because you don't want to spend the bonus action right now. Or whatever. So back into it. So great. While your innate sorcery feature is active as a hold on, let's change this. When you activate your innate sorcery feature, you gain the following benefits until your innate sorcery feature ends. Period. You can use this feature once, regaining it when you finish a long rest. You can regain it again sooner. You can also regain it by expending 7 mana when you activate your innate sorcery feature again as part of the bonus action to do so. Bursting Life Force. Flight. Spell Avoidance. Okay, so check these things out. Burning Life Force. Once per turn, when you are hit by an attack roll, you can expend a number of hit dice up to your maximum equal to your charisma modifier. Roll the expended dice and reduce the amount of damage from that attack equal to the total rolled plus your sorcerer level. We're rolling d6s as a sorcerer up to your charisma modifier. Once per turn, when you are hit by an attack roll, you can expend a number of... No, we're not going to make you spend hit dice on that. That's dumb. You can, let's see, expend mana up to your maximum sorcery limit, rolling 1d6 per mana expended this way, reducing the amount of damage taken by the result of the dice rolled. That's clumsy language, but it'll do for now. If I get hit, I could throw down 5 mana, throw 5d6. I'm going to reduce the damage by that much. Holy fuck. This would make an awesome pilot in Spelljammer. Spelljammer, the way that system works is when your ship gets hit by an attack, either like takes damage. There's damage resistance that reduce depending on what material the ship is made out of. Light material, medium material, heavy material. It has damage reduction. So when you take a hit, the material will reduce some of the damage taken, and then whatever damage is left, the pilot can decide, will the ship take all of the damage, or is the pilot going to take some of the damage for you? And if you decide, like if you have, like say, if your navigator is a cleric, and that cleric has warding bond cast on the pilot, like the ship might take 10 points, like maybe 70 points of damage is coming in from a trebuchet. The heavy, like the metal scorpion ship that you're piloting absorbs 20 points of damage. Now there's 50 points left that your scorpion could take, but your scorpion only has 150 hit points. So if it takes that 50 point hit, that's gonna fuck your ship up. You can't take a lot of those. Instead, the pilot can decide to take all 50 points of damage. Warding bond comes into effect, and the navigator cleric is going to take 25 points, and the pilot then only takes 25 points. If the pilot is a Spellfire sorcerer, you could then use Crown of Spellfire to trigger your Burning Life Force to say, let's put 5 mana into it. I'm going to roll 5d6 and potentially neutralize all 25 points of damage, taking no damage at all. And the cleric took 25 points because he was willing to take that hit for the team. And the ship took none. I love the Spelljammer rules that we have because they really encourage your team. Like a barbarian pilot, while raging, is resistant to virtually all the damage that could potentially hit the ship. So barbarians make fucking awesome pilots because they can tank so much damage. Rogues make awesome pilots because they get the cunning action that they can use to have more maneuverability on their ship, like deflect, disengage, dodge, hide. Their cunning, the cunning action that the rogue has access to, you can use as a pilot to make your ship more stealthy, to become a sneak attack vessel. It's just, oh my god, it's so fucking fun. One of the things that we're probably going to be working on in July is the Mecha Kaiju book, where we're building mech suits like war golems for your characters to run around and using these Spelljammer mechanics, so that you have this buff of temporary hit points inside your golem with a power core that generates mana for you, temporary mana that you can expend on effects while you're fighting Mega Kaiju that are anywhere from like say 20 to 1,000 feet in size. So we've already built out the basics for that on stream, but it's been like 6 months since we had a chance to look at it. I'm really excited to get back into that. I've been thinking about it a lot. So, but yeah, a Spellfire pilot. God, that'd be fucking sick. I would love to run that character. It's pretty fun. I made it too easy, letting my players turn a living ship from the Ghosts of Saltmarsh book into a Spelljammer with a helm they acquired from the Arcane Aliens. Funny story there. One of the supplements I'm going to build is living ships. In the Spelljammer, the Spelljammer book is linked down below if you want to, and it has a free preview so you can look through it. But I have amplified spell effects, so if you're using different magical devices on your ship, you can magnify spell effects. And one of the spell magnifiers is Awaken. So if your ship is made out of living material, you can awaken it. And if your ship is made out of inanimate material, you could use animate object on it for the entire ship. If you make your ship, if you awaken your ship, it can become a sidekick. And then if you have a helm that's bolted into the ship can be its own pilot. And now you can have like a 15-foot fighter craft as like your faithful companion, and then you can you can ride your fighter craft as your best friend. It's super fucking cool. So it's a really small piece, but then we can do that like with the Illithid ships to explain like the biomechanical living essence of these nautiloids. They're just awakened. They're just made out of chitin and flesh, and they're just awakened, and then they're enslaved to their Illithid commander. But if you free them, you could get an octopus ship pet. Like if you free them from their creators, or they could just be evil as fuck and try to kill you. But like we have a Illithid cuttlefish, or 20-foot fighter craft that can house 2 Illithids, and they have tentacles and stuff that they can attack stuff. But they're 20 feet in size. They're fucking nightmares. They've got psionic gun turrets on them. Inside of them, it's a cuttlefish. That's basically it's like a Zentradi battle pod with 8 tentacles instead of 2 chicken legs. Sort of the same thing. Fun. Super, and it feeds off of psionic energy, so it'll capture people and it'll stick them in its little storage chamber, and it feeds while they're trapped in that life jammer helm. The cuttlefish feeds off of their life force, but they're conveniently located that an Illithid could reach down and chew on their brain if they wanted to. They're just basically in a holding pen that's available to the inhabitants, but otherwise it's its own little ship that can fly around. Super fun crap. Check it out. It's fun. But yeah, I'm right there with you. It's just you have to have a proper framework to have that thing exist inside of the game, so it's not overwhelming. You got 3 gears with the book that I built. You got basically 3 gears. You've got your characters on foot at the 5-foot scale. You've got fighter craft combat at the 50-foot scale, and then you've got vessels and fleet battles at the 500-foot scale. And then you can move at higher scales than that. But those are basically the 3 sizes of combat maps that exist inside the game when you utilize this system. So like the War Golem Kaiju book assumes that characters are running around in War Golems that are going to be up to 50 feet. But you could do like EVA models that are like 100 feet in size. Now you're looking at War Golems the size of vessels. Like a Hammerhead ship, or like the Squid ship, for example, is 250 feet in length. It sits inside of a 500-foot space. It could be up to 500 feet, and like an Illithid dreadnought is 500 feet in size. An Ogre Mammoth is 500 feet in size. Illithid butterfly armadas, monarchs, are 500 feet in size. But they also have like little flitter fighter craft that are 10 feet. And like the Goblin Arrows, they're like 15 feet in size. They're super small fighter craft that you can pin a fuck ton of them onto these giant carrier ships that are 500 feet in size. Like a Dwarven Citadel, 500 feet in size. Occupying like a Borg, like a cube, a 500-foot cube. So, but it all scales up, and you can have generally I keep War Golems within the 50-foot scale, so they operate inside that fighter craft space. But like Spiderling fighter craft, Cuttlefish, Elven Warbirds, Flitter ships, Goblin Arrows, I think I mentioned already, Combat Skiffs. These are all fighter craft that sit inside the 50-foot scale, so you can operate at a 50-foot scale map in combat, and have them flit around and fight with each other and shit. So yeah, we'll be developing it here on stream. So like, subscribe, stick around, and if you want to join my Discord channel down below, I have a channel devoted to my Spelljammer ideas. You're welcome to drop into there and just ask questions, shoot the shit. And I have the document. Go look at my Spelljammer content, and you'll find the playtest document. It's available for you to read, just like everything else is that I do. And I'll be running on my Discord probably in February. I'm planning on running Storm King's Thunder as a Spelljammer campaign, where your Dwarven Citadel is going from asteroid community to different asteroid community, fighting kaiju that are trying to eat their crops or their ships or whatever. and the characters have you have your mecha, you have your mecha hangar bay in the Storm King's Dwarven Citadel, and it just basically opens up, and your Gundams come out, and then you go fight the kaiju in your Gundam. And so it's a playtest campaign. So most of it's just going to be revolve around choosing which community are you going to go help first, fight off kaiju, a bunch of kaiju mecha combat, Pacific Rim style, and then you go back, and we'll be using the Bastion campaign system that I developed to build up your citadel and to choose different communities to bolster with defenses using the Bastion military system. So yeah, it's going to be using both of those tools, and to build my Spelljammer campaign, the Mecha Kaiju stuff, the Bastion campaign book. All three of those things will work together to rebuild Storm King Thunder in this idea. And I'll probably never get around to publishing it, but it'll be it'll be an abbreviated campaign. It's not going to run 270 hours, but it'll run for a number of months, and we'll level quickly through it, so that we can get a sense of power and just to fuck around with mechanics and just have fun. You know, that's kind of how I run that's how I run playtest campaigns. So, yeah, it should be really fun. I did something similar to that with Descent into Avernus when I was testing the Infernal War Machines. That was before we developed the fighter ship mechanics for Spelljammer. We had already been developing vehicle combat rules to use in Descent into Avernus at the 50-foot scale, so you could have like Mad Max convoys, and like all the vehicles fit inside of like 20-foot spaces or whatever. Well, we had basically ground vehicle rules that we had fully developed and were using in a Descent into Avernus campaign. And then Spelljammer happened, so we then built out mechanics, and we made the Descent into Avernus a Spelljammer campaign instead. So all the demons and devils started developing Spelljammer fighter craft to attack Elturel, and we got to use our Bastion defense mechanic system to create a Bastion inside Elturel to defend the base while we would venture out and deal with demons and stuff. So it was another abbreviated campaign, but fuck, it was fun, and it really taught us a lot about making those mechanics in that exploration system smooth, which eventually evolved into the Spelljammer combat and exploration game, which has also been completely converted into Light of Xeraxis, and we did playtesting the Light of Xeraxis campaign. We ran a number of scenarios, like all the combat scenarios in LOX. We ran those through to make sure that they would work as well, and they worked great. So we rebuilt the LOX campaign as in the appendix of the Spelljammer book, so you can see, like, here's a live fire test demonstration of how my Spelljammer mechanics actually work inside of a game. If you know locks, here's how you can convert locks using my Spelljammer mechanics. Go have fun. And we rebuilt all the combat and exploration things involving ships to utilize that. And it's really fucking fun. So check it out. If you think it's neat, check it out. But you've got me monologuing again, you sly dog. We're trying to build up this Spellpoint Sorcerer. God bless you, man. I love it. But yeah, so getting back to work, Burning Life Force. Once per turn, when you're hit by an attack roll, you can expend mana up to your maximum sorcery limit. And again, 1, 5, 9, 13, 17, up to 5 sorcery points at 17th level, which is coming off of your mana pool. So just, you get hit, you can, at 18th level, you can spend up to 5 mana, roll 5d6, reduce the damage taken by that amount. Flight, you gain a flying speed of 60 feet and can hover while your innate sorcery feature is active. And then spell avoidance, when you're subjected to a spell or magical effect that allows you to make a saving throw to take only half damage, you... instead take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw and only half damage if you fail. You can't use this benefit if you have the incapacitated condition. Okay, so we have a problem here because normally this feature only lasts 1 minute and you don't get it back until you spend 7 mana. The way that we have it built is it lasts for however long you have innate sorcery active. And you can, again, by tapping 1 mana, you can maintain, assuming you don't lose concentration, you can keep this up all day. So you're going to get a lot more value out of spell avoidance than you would normally get it out. You would normally get out of it because of the way that we're expanding the use. That makes me want to add a mana cost to this. Like when you're subjected to a spell effect, you can spend, like, say, 2 mana that allows you to make a saving throw to take only half damage. Right. So when you have 100 mana, and you can get 10 back on a rest, or as part of your innate sorcery ritual. So you technically have 110 mana per day. So that's a lot of mana. That's a lot of Mai Tai. And we're trying to burn through the pool. So adding a cost, I think, is fair. So when you're subjected to a spell, you can't... WotC is constrained on how much power or how frequently they can give the power, because they don't have a base mechanic that operates the same through all 14 classes like this mana system allows. So they have to do things like give you free spell uses, or like give you X uses per day based on your relevant ability score. When you have a mana pool that's just going to continue to expand, and it's basically a second resource that you want to burn through, kind of like you want to burn through hit points, you want to burn through a mana pool every day. So by looking at different abilities that they give you and making it less binary on off, you can instead you can use this frequently by expending mana on it. So we're trying to incentivize them. So this is a really good feature, but you've got a ton of mana, so we can afford to make this. You have to spend some mana to make this happen. It's a mana tax, but we are actively attempting to tax your mana. So for now, until I see evidence otherwise, when you're subjected to a spell or magical effect that allows you to make a saving throw to take only half damage, you can expend 2 mana to instead take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw, and only half damage if you fail. You can't use this benefit if you have the incapacitated condition. Let's double check that real quick. Hold on. Reaction is called Roll with the Hit. Roll with the Hit. As a reaction to taking damage from an attack, you reduce the damage by half. Roll with the Hit is a 2 mana effect. It's a reaction. This has no reaction. It's 2 mana, and it has the innate sorcery kicker. The innate sorcery kicker replaces the reaction effect. It still leaves us with 2 mana for a spell effect that allows you half damage. That's equivalent exchange. So this scales. You're getting it really late in the game. I mean, your rogue could get that at level 5 if you wanted to spend 2 mana on it. But our sorcerer normally wouldn't have access to that, because sorcerers and full casters don't get access to full magic. So this would normally be unavailable to them, but this is a way. This feature allows us to cheat that in. The Scion has a lot of martial power stuff built into the psionic disciplines. It's really fun. But that cleans up. That's our Spellfire Sorcerer. So that's done. So let's move on to the next thing. We have an agenda. We're going to next build. We're going to look at the Blade Steamer. I think we already have the Blade Steamer build, but I don't know if it's this UA version or not. So we're going to update the tech to work with this. And so let's go down to the Wizard. Here we go. Here's our Wizard Scaffold. You can see here at 20th level. Why are you showing 90 mana? Total cantrips, spellbook. You're not limited to casting 1 spell per mana. Arcane recovery. You regain some of your magical energy by studying your spellbook. When you finish a short rest, you can regain a number of mana up to your max spell level. You can cast as a wizard at 19th level. You can cast up to 10th level spell slots or spell levels. So that's 10 mana that you would get back. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish long rest. I don't know why this is sitting on 90 mana. That's weird. It should not be that way. There's my sorcerer with 100. Scion should have 80. Yeah. Copy. I don't know why it's at 90. That's weird. Come on, doggy. Get on down there. Chikamaniha. Chikamaniha. Weird. There we go. 2 spells at first level, of course, and then cantrips for days. 2, 4, 8. By 8th level, you get 4 first level spells and 2 second level spells. Right? That tracks. That's 8 mana. So 4 first level spells, that's 4. 2 second level spells, that's 4, equals 8. So 2 at first level, 8 at third level. This jives. 5th level, you get what? 4 first, 3 second, and 2 third. That's 4 plus 6 plus 6. That's 16 points. Look at that. That jives. And then it starts to go wonky. It starts to ramp up more to keep up with the mana pool. But if you add up all the spell slots in the player's handbook, if you add up all the spell levels that you get between your first through 6th level, like first through 5th level spells, and then you get 2 6th, 2 7th, 1 8th, 1 9th. That's actually 89 spell levels worth of spell slots. So in this system, you only get 80 spell levels worth of mana, but you can divide it up any way you want. If you were to divide it up the way that you could divide it up as listed in the player's handbook by pre-selecting, by pre-packaging your mana into the spell slots, and it still pans out to be the same amount of spell slots, maybe with a couple points left over for kicker effects and stuff. But for the most part, it completely jives with the amount of power that your character is supposed to have. It's just the flexibility of how you spend it that makes it seem so powerful. And again, that's why we have such abusive concentration mechanics, to force you to take these shit tests, to constantly challenge the mana that you have tapped to maintain concentration on what are arguably the most powerful spells in the game, are the ones that you can maintain concentration on because they're persistent effects that have the risk of being lost, but there is no real risk of losing them in the fight game engine. Let's be real. If you've been playing D&D for any amount of time, you know that half damage equals concentration check on a Constitution saving throw. It's rarely a big risk. Like, how many times do you actually lose concentration during a game session? I typically lose concentration once, maybe twice at best. That doesn't really test my mana pool. This mana system we developed really tests your mana. Like, it really tests you. So it allows you to be if you're going to abuse the mana pool to spam stuff, then you're going to end up probably getting spammed with like topple and like grapple checks. Those all require saving throws now, which fuck your mana if you fail your save. So, Wizard. Ritual Adept, sure we can do that. Spellcasting, there it is. Arcane Recovery, 10 by 19th. Subclasses, feat. Thank you. What time is it? Ooh, wow, it's 8:15. It's been 2 hours already. Can you imagine that? Whenever you finish a short rest, you can study your spell book and replace one of the level 1 plus spell wizard spells you're prepared for your spellcasting feature with another level 1 plus spell from your book. So on a short rest, you can swap a power. You can swap a spell. Spell Mastery, choose a level 1 and a level 2 spell in your book, and at casting time, you always have these spells prepared, and you cast them at their lowest level without expending mana. To cast either spell at a higher level, you must expend mana as normal. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can study your spell book and replace one of those spells with an eligible spell, a different spell. Casting time of an action. It's like you can't pick up Shield with Spell Mastery. You can't pick up Silvery Barbs with Spell Mastery because those are reaction spell. You can't take Misty Step. That is a bonus action spell. This requires an action of a magic action. You can swap them. Epic Boon, Signature Spell, cast them, no cost. Very good. We aren't using the 8 schools of magic in the color mana system. Instead, we have the 5 traditions: white magic, blue magic, blah, blah, blah. We don't have a set list of spells that we gain. Instead, choose 2 wizard spells, each of which must be no higher than level 2. At 3rd level, it can't be higher than level 2. And add them to your spell book for free. These spells are devoted to white magic. Since you're a tradition of white magic, pick 2 spells, they're devoted to white magic for free. For you, in addition to their native colors. Whenever you gain access to a new spell level in this class, you can add 1 additional wizard spell up to the max level spell you can cast as a wizard in the book this way for free. So at 15th level, when I get this, I'll have a total of 8 spells that are up to 8th level. In addition, the cost and time spent to research to devote a spell to white magic is halved. And if you're using the Strixhaven and Ravnica rules, Strixhaven college credits and Ravnica renown, depending on how many points you've accumulated, that's the level of spell that you can research for free in the Strixhaven archives or at your Ravnica guild. Arcane Ward. Yeah, so I mean, otherwise, but they all work that way. Blue does the same thing. Picks spells up to 10 by 19th level. Black magic, 10 spells are automatically black by 10th level. Red, same thing. Green, same thing. And basically, these color classes are combinations of the 8 schools. We've just taken features from the various 8 schools and recombined them into the flavor of each color. So, like blue has divination and illusion magic options. White has conjuration, I think some conjuration and abjurer effects. Red has invoker and I think some conjuration effects. Black has necromancy effects. So it's thematically appropriate. But we basically cannibalized those different features and recombined them into the 5 colors as traditions for magic. But getting out of that, so I haven't really spent I haven't spent any time translating like the conjurer into the color mana system, because in the color magic system there wouldn't be a conjurer school, though you could have somebody that's focused in conjuring and summoning stuff. And I guess we could cobble together features that way. But if you're going to be a necromancer, you're probably going to be a black magic character anyway. So let's give you necromancy stuff in the traditional black magic. So looks like we've already done Blade Singer before, but I believe this is from the 2014 book. So let's take a look to see how things have changed for the Blade Singer and see if we need to make any updates. Okay, well, this doesn't give us any spells. And the system that we use, every class gets 10 spells or powers, or like in the case of the wild, the wild magic sorcerer, 10 meta magics. But you get what I mean. You get a list of 10 bonus things, and all of these classes get 23 prepared options. Like the fighter gets 23 prepared powers plus 10 bonus powers depending on which subclass they take. So they end up with 33 powers. The sorcerer gets 25, but that's taking meta magic and spells. So technically they should have 27 if you were to use the mentality. But like even the warlock, you only get 15 spells from the warlock, but you get 8 invocations, which could be spent on spells. So there you go. We could technically bend invocations and make them spells, just like the meta magic we made into spell selections as well. There's an argument for that. We'll address that. What's going on? Hey, Delight. Will there be any inclusions in the void mechanic? It's something the Eldrazi had, where no matter the mana in the card, they were to be considered colorless. Or is that inclusion colorless magic in general? Characters use color. The DM can use colorless. You could get access to artifacts that are colorless. There can be like some magic effects, it doesn't care what color you use, but that's an artifact. So that's a colorless mechanic, right? Artifacts use colorless mana. In that case, it's like this enchanted spear. When you throw it, will become lightning if you expend 2 points of mana, for example. It doesn't care what color the mana is. You can just do it. Although you could have magic items that are tied to specific colors, and I have examples of those in the original core mechanics that we built for 2018. We do have examples there, but since then our awareness has expanded, and looking at artifacts in general, it's pretty much whatever color mana you want to spend when you're using an artifact. Instead of giving you like free uses of a spell, like you can in spelled items, you can cast a spell once a day for free, but then after that, you have to spend mana of any color of the level spell to be able to use it again. So like that's an example. That's colorless mana, but that's not devoid, or that's also not like hit point sacrifice. Hit point sacrifice uses hit dice instead of mana. And like blood magic, like vampires and shit, you would sacrifice your hit dice as a mana resource instead of your mana pool. But devoid magic specifically, that's an NPC mechanic because Eldrazi are NPCs. So that's just a narrative limitation that I have, and to not overcomplicate the mana pool, because you kind of want to keep the system simple enough that any player can grok it and have options to bend how it's used, but you want to be careful about diving too far deep into any like niche aspect use of stuff. If you go too far down a rabbit hole, you lose your audience. They can't follow you. Yeah. Cheers. Good question, though. It comes up frequently. Yeah. Artifacts, any color, totally jives. Let's see. Okay, so we don't normally get spells. So the spells that we have here are going to be fine, because they don't have spells, so we can choose any spells we want. So that's good. Let's look at Blade Song. As a bonus action, you invoke an elven magic called Blade Song, provided that you aren't wearing armor or using a shield. Blade Song lasts for 1 minute and ends early if you have the incapacitated condition, if you don armor or shield, or if you use 2 hands to make an attack with a weapon. You can dismiss the Blade Song at any time. While the Blade Song is active, you gain the following benefits. You can invoke the Blade Song a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest, which would also be able to be triggered with 2 mana. Agility, you gain a bonus to your armor class equal to your intelligence modifier, and your speed increases by 10 feet. Blade Work, whenever, wow. You gain a bonus to your armor class equal to your intelligence modifier, which is going to be 20. So that's plus 5, and then you stack shield on top of it. That's a plus 10. Makes sense that you can only do this if you are unarmored. That jives. It becomes valuable. Blade Work, whenever you attack with a weapon with which you have proficiency, you can use your intelligence modifier for the attack and damage rolls instead of using strength or dex. Focus, when you make a constitution saving throw to maintain concentration against taking damage, you can add your intelligence modifier to the total. Like, I'm not going to give, like, Constitution, there's more reasons other than taking damage that you would make a Constitution saving throw, but Wizards is so tunnel visioned on, like in the 2014 book, they mentioned, like, you could require them to make a saving throw, like a dexterity saving throw on a ship tossed at sea to lose concentration. But other than a single sentence, they never mention it again. Otherwise, they just assume the only time your concentration is going to get tested is if you take damage. And that, like in the core mechanics book that I have linked down below, we have attrition, which is like when you're encountering, if you have to stand still, like on guard duty for like an 8-hour shift, once per hour, we're going to test your, I think it's wisdom, to check if your attention wanders or not. So if you fail the attrition check, you lose concentration. If you read a book for too long, like if I read too many words in a row, I get sleepy. So that's an intelligence saving throw I have to make. And depending on the density of material that I'm trying to read is going to determine how often I have to make a saving throw to maintain concentration. If it's just like, Dr. Seuss shit, then it's barely an inconvenience. Maybe once every 8 hours, I'm going to have to do a concentration check on that. But if I'm trying to decipher law terms or like congressional bills or something that are written at college level writing, I'm going to have to make a concentration check like maybe every minute. Otherwise, I blow my concentration because of the depth of information I'm trying to read. And you can use that when your team is researching stuff, and when you discover puzzles in dungeons. You can set a complexity level, and that complexity level is the concentration check they make while they try to decipher it. So instead of it just being a puzzle that the players have to figure out, you can set, this is a really complicated puzzle. It's going to take X amount of time for you to resolve it. During that time, I need you to make two intelligence saving throws. And if you fail either one of them, you're going to blow your concentration trying to figure out how this puzzle works. But if you pass them, I'll give you a hint each time you pass them. Like, that's a fun way to be able to use these mechanics. Makes sense. I've added the concentration checks whenever a status condition like frightened or stunned is applied, but haven't thought of it that way. Nice. That's in the core mechanics book under the concentration chapter. But yeah, it's you get so much mana with the spell point system that you can afford, if your team leans into concentration effects, they're going to get a lot of value out of their mana pool for doing that. So you want to shit test them. And that just becomes an accepted part of the game. So traps in a dungeon, topple masteries, saving throws off of cantrips, they all become serious threats to your concentration. So if you're trying to cheese out maintaining a spell for more than a minute, like at that point, the DM is obligated to start shit testing you. It's like, well, we're going to make this spell last longer than its normal duration would allow. You can keep it going all day if you can keep succeeding saving throws. So now you're incentivizing them to be smart about how they use their mana. So it's a different type of balance, but it's more interactive, and it makes exploration have a mechanical depth to it that the 5e game engine doesn't currently have. It's like if you're like slogging through a swamp and your boot gets stuck in the mud, kind of like in the D&D movie, when the sorcerer gets his foot stuck in a flagstone, and it causes him to lose concentration because he can't get his fucking foot out of the rock. That's him failing a saving throw against a distraction, and it completely screws his illusion spell. That and Embercleave, the fat dragon. Those two scenes are so fucking funny. That movie, that D&D movie is fucking great. Such a great movie. Yeah, they really did. I could take if they could repeat that vibe and keep that interest and that freshness. I'll take as many of those movies as they can write. I could watch those all goddamn day. That shit is just, God, it was so well done. Whoever was building that movie must really fucking love D&D, because God, it felt so good. All right, Blade Song. Bonus action, not wearing armor shields. Invoke Blade Song, lasts 1 minute and ends early if you have the incapacitated condition, if you don armor and shield, or if you use 2 hands to make an attack with a weapon. You can dismiss the Blade Song at any time, no action required. When you invoke the Blade Song, you can invoke the Blade Song a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, minimum of 1, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. You can regain 1 use when you expend 2 mana, no action required. Agility, you gain a bonus to your AC equal to 1 plus half the maximum spell level gained as a wizard, rounded up. And your, third level, equal to 1 plus half the maximum spell level gained. Equal to half the maximum spell level gained as a wizard, rounded up. And your speed increases by 10 feet. So at level 3, it's only going to be a +1, but you're going to have the shield spell. So I'm not going to cry for you. By 5th level, 2 levels later, it's going to be a +3. No, it'll be a +2, and it'll be back on balance. Blade work. It looks like we already have this. I don't know if it's changed or if I came through here already. I don't remember doing that. Blade work. Whenever you attack, 1 plus. No, you know what? You gain equal to half the maximum spell level gained as a wizard, rounded down. Equal to 1 plus half the maximum spell level gained as a wizard. So at 3rd level, you get access to 2nd level spell, which is 1 plus 1 here. At 17th level, when you get access to 9th level spells, that rounds down to a 4. +1 is a +5, and then of course at 19th level we give you a 10th level spell slot, so that'll take it to 6. +6 at 19th level, and I'm okay with breaking that barrier. Blade work. When you attack with a weapon with which you have proficiency, you can use your intelligence modifier to attack and damage instead of strength roll. Okay. And focus. You can make a constitution saving throw to maintain concentration due to taking damage. You can add your intelligence modifier to the total. Okay, well, we may have already done this. Let's just keep reading through it to make sure it's accurate, and it'll just give us a chance to second guess ourselves. You gain proficiency in all martial weapons that don't have the two-handed or heavy property. You can use a melee weapon with which you have a proficiency as a spellcasting focus for your wizard spells. You also gain proficiency in one of the following skills of your choice: acrobatics, athletics, performance, persuasion, training in war, and song. No weapons that don't have two-handed weapon. Weapon proficiency in spellcasting focus. You're going to gain proficiency in those skills. Okay, great. Extra attack at 6. You can attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. Alternatively, you can cast one of your wizard cantrips that has a casting time of an action in place of one of those attacks. Okay, Song of Defense. When you take damage while your blade song is active, you can take a reaction to expend one spell slot and reduce the damage taken by an amount equal to 5 times the spell slot's level. When you take damage when the blade song is active, you can take a reaction to expend mana up to your max spell level gained as a warlock to reduce the damage taken by an amount equal to 5 times the amount of mana expended. Same thing, different way of wording it. Song of Victory. After you cast a spell that has a casting time of an action, you can make one attack with a weapon as a bonus action. Okay, well, I guess we already translated this. Other than the adding the spell list, there was no alteration. Hey, we finished it. So all the subclasses from all the UAs 2024 and all the Forsaken subclasses that are still left behind in 2014, they're all current and active in the playtest document now. Woohoo! All right, so with what time we have left, what time do we have left? I want to rebuild the Warlock. I want to rebuild it as a true Gish, where it can utilize both its full spellcasting capability and make use of the martial power system. We already have that implemented, and we're going to surf in our document up to page. Here we are in Hexblade. Warlock subclasses. Here's the Warlock up here on page 113. If you're reading along in the Gospel, page 113, Warlock progression table. So this is in the Spell Point Warlocks that's linked down below. This is already using the 2014 rules, is already up and running on the DMsGuild. It's pay what you want, but God bless you guys. It's gold medal status, which means more than 500 people have bought it. God, I love it when I succeed for people. That feels so good. I'm glad that people like it. So Pact Mana. Pact Magic is level 1 to 5. We call it Common Magic in the core mechanics. And then level 6 to 9 is High Magic. And then Wish is the only 10th level spell, which then means you don't get it until 19th level instead of 17th. So if you want Wish, you have to stay single class in a full caster class until 19. But then you get access to that as the only 10th level spell. But you do get a 10th level spell slot. It costs 10 mana to cast it. And you could cast Fireball at 10th level if you wanted to at 19th level. And then at 20th level, you get a true epic wish, which is you've got the list of things that you can do with wish normally, which cost 10 mana to pop, or duplicate a spell effect up to 9th level, 10 mana to do so. Or you can make an off-the-cuff wish. And you can't do that until 20th level. But when you do, and the rules for that is in the epic casting and wish spell section of the core mechanics book, is also in the Spellpoint Sorcerer in the Spellpoint Warlocks book, linked down below. But at 20th level, you spend 10 mana to cast wish. That opens a conversation with the DM, where you say, "This is what I want to do," and the DM tells you how much mana it's going to cost, and then you permanently lose that much mana to get your thing. I want haste to be permanent on my character. I want it to forever be effective. I never want it to be dispelled. I want it to come back if it is. I don't ever want to be stunned if it is. I just permanentize haste on my character. You and your DM may barter and decide it's worth 15 mana. okay, I'm going to permanently sacrifice 15 mana from my mana pool. So instead of 80 mana, I now have 65 mana, and now my character permanently has haste on it. You can use that same idea with hit points, hit dice, and mana when making deals with demons and angels, to sell off or surrender pieces of your soul to gain magical boons. You can do the same thing. You open a conversation with your DM. Hey, I want to make a sacrifice so I can enhance my character. Cool. What are you looking to do? The example that I use in the book is an angry druid wants to destroy Menzoberranzan, so is willing to sacrifice all 80 mana in their mana pool to have an earthquake crush Menzoberranzan underground. Like, I'm going to spend 80 mana on it. The DM says, okay. And maybe that's a change that happens. Or there could be a ward on Menzoberranzan to prevent that from happening. That a high cleric of Loth, maybe a whole cabal of high clerics from Loth, have made a pact, and then they surrendered 3,000 mana between 600 different clerics. They all gave up 5 mana apiece to make a bond with Loth that their cavern would be protected from disaster with a 3,000 mana price point. So unless your team can come up with 3,000 mana, your DM's going to say, I can't give that to you. I can't promise that wish will come true because they've spent more mana than you're willing to spend. So it's not going to happen. And you can just tell them that up front instead of fucking their mana pool. It's like for example, I want to get rid of gravity on Earth. Well, that's going to cost you 5 million mana because when God built the Earth, that's how much mana was invested into the planet to make sure that gravity is consistent in this world. I can override that. I can remove gravity permanently from the game by expending 5,000 mana to make it no gravity, fuck you. Or for a limited time, I can cast a spell and it's 3 mana. And for 3 mana, I can fly for however long I can maintain concentration on it. But when it fails, I am going to crash. Or I can spend an additional point of mana to Featherfall. And that establishes how your character uses mana and spellcasting to break the rules of physics in the game. Normally, I can't just create fire from nowhere, but if I spend 3 mana, I can create a point of fire that explodes in a 20-foot radius, taking damage. The more mana I pump into it, the more damage it'll deal. Like, that's how you can narrate magic in your game, because the gods collect mana from all of their clerics. Otherworldly patrons collect all the mana from their warlocks. That's why they get human. They seed humans with 1, maybe 2 points of mana at level 1. And the deal is that while you continue worshiping me, I will pump more and more mana into you as your devotion increases. And at some point, you're going to reach 20th level. And when you leave this world, you're going to come back a celebrated hero of building that mana from 1 to 100 or whatever. And you've capped out your potential with this. You have perfected your representation of me and devotion to me. So you have this esteemed seat next to me in heaven, and I just collected 80 mana. I invested 1 point of mana or 2 points of mana into you as a mortal, and you return to me 80 mana. Do this for 1 billion years, and now Thor has roughly 20 million points of mana available for him as a god to throw mana around, to create worlds, and to fight gods at levels that are so far beyond mortal ability that you can't actually fight gods because they can just nullify anything that you do. Maybe you can catch them off guard for a round with a good roll, but you can't keep them down because they have a resurrection thing that's 2 million points they've invested, and if I'm killed, I get raised the next round. I just reappear. Full intact with memory of what happened. I just basically blink and then blink back in. You can't actually kill a god. Maybe you can kill a god. Keeping them dead is the trick, and it'll cost you millions of mana to do it. So you can break the rules for the world that's very small and concise for what your character has, but if you only have 80, maybe 100 mana to throw at it, it's going to be pretty limited effect. Maybe you can bend somebody's fate. Maybe you can shape this mountain, but you can't build an entire crystal sphere with planets. That takes millions of mana to do that. And that's the shit of gods. Unless you can somehow accumulate that much mana as a mortal coil with with cooperative magic, but that could become a threat. So depending on how much mana you can accumulate, you get the interest. Like gods have like a thing, like if anyone spends more than 100 mana at one time, that's beyond normal mortal capability. What's going on there? Anything that's more than 100 mana becomes a trigger that summons angels. Like, what are you doing? What's going on? You're violating like 6 rules of magic right now. What the fuck is going on? Anyway, mythic trait that basically can give my bosses a phase 2. The mythic mechanic is really good. Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's fun. Okay, so yeah, the Warlock Pact Magic is for levels 1 to 5. You get this mana back on a short rest. It scales like a monk. 1 at first level, short rest. At 20th level, it's 20 mana back on a short rest. And then you have Mystic Arcanum. So you get Arcanum points. You get 1 spell at 6th level, 7th level, 8th level, 9th level. You get a 10th level spell slot, which is automatically going to be filled with Wish, but you have it available as a spell slot. So you end up with 40 points of mana on a long rest. Pact mana cannot be spent to cast high magic, but Mystic Arcanum points can be spent on any spell that you have, including 1st through 5th, as well as 6th through 10th. So if you don't want, like if you have like say your 12th level, you have 9 mana on a long rest and 12 mana on a short rest. If I didn't particularly need my 6th level spell today, I have 9 points that I can just spend at any time on a 1st level, 2nd level, 3rd, 4th, 5th, up to 6th level spell. So it basically becomes a kicker pool that my character has access to. And otherwise everything's pretty much the same. It's, you get your invocations, you get your cantrips. Max spell level still scales to 10. The number of prepared spells that you get is 16 total, which includes the Mystic Arcanum spells that you get. So you could choose to get a Mystic Arcanum spell up to 9th level, or you could just choose to get another Pact Mana spell at a lower level if you wanted to. But you get 16 prepared spells in total, and you get 10 invocations. So if you were to spend all 10 invocations on picking up additional spells, you would eventually have 26 spells. But a lot of invocations aren't spells. They're like meta effects, right? Because they're invocations. They do stuff. So you have a lot of flexibility there. What I could do is I could scrap invocations altogether and just integrate invocations into your spell list. And the way that I run things is slow preppers like warlocks and sorcerers and bards. Whenever you finish a long, like clerics, druids, and wizards, whenever they finish a long rest, they can swap all of their spells. Slow preppers like bards, warlocks, sorcerers, and scions, they can swap 1 spell when they finish a long rest and all their spells when they gain a level. So they're slower. All the martial classes and the half-casters are that way too. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can swap 1 spell or power that you know for another, and when you gain a level, you can swap all of them to rekit your character to what you want. So what I could do is I could abandon invocations altogether and just increase the amount of prepared spells to have like 3, like start with 3, like 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Probably not at that clip. Maybe it's better I just leave them separate. 3, 6, 11, 14, 17, 20, 21, 2, 3, 4, 23, 1, 2, 25, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4 is 26. Interesting. 23. Yeah, it's a little broken. This is an even cadence here, and then the evocations are an even cadence. So I'm just going to leave that be. But we have a general rule. The way that it's split right now is powers, martial powers at the front end of the book, is a half casting system, 5 ranks, 1, 5, 9, 13, 17. And the Warlock has full casting progression, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 from 1 to 19. The way that it's currently built, everything spellcasting, it's all the martial shit. I mean, all the Warlock stuff is fine. The way that it's currently built is with invocations. Is dropping down, martial power invocations. So the following invocations: duplicate blade. You can conjure a bond with 2 weapons. Eldritch power. You can choose to prepare an exploit, maneuver, reaction, or sustain power up to the max rank of power. You can channel as detailed below. Whenever you gain a level, you can change the chosen power, and it's repeatable. Each time you choose this invocation, choose an additional power to prepare. You can use empowered actions to generate temporary mana to channel powers. So your Eldritch power is at first level. You have max rank of 1. You have a D6 power die. This is like everyone else. This is just how the power system works. Here's your general scaffold. 1, the power die is like an inspiration die, superiority die, martial arts die, flash of inspiration die, scion, discipline die. It's all the same. D6 at first, D8 at 9, and D10 at 17. Notice it doesn't outpace anything. Like the monk gets a D12 by this point, the bard gets a D12 at this point, the battle master gets a D12 at this point. This is just a general, like everyone can do this thing, but it's not going to be as good as like the bard, or like I can't inspire as good as a bard, or I can't do maneuvers as good as the battle master, or the monk. Like the monk's awesome because of their D12 die. The battle master and the bar, the battle master, ranger. Well, technically only the battle master and the monk are the only ones that get the up to D12s at 17th level. The ranger, when they're using Mark of Prey against their target at 20th level, they can use a D12 instead of a D10. So their progression would be D6, D8, D10, and then with Foe Slayer at 20th it'd be a D12, and you'd be able to channel up to 5 mana, so it'd be 5 D12. So like if I'm using like a Hunter's Mark strike, when I hit with an attack, I can pump 5 mana into it, and if it's my Mark Prey at 20th level, Foe Slayer, it'd be 5 D12. Otherwise, against anybody else, it'd just be a 5 D10. Not a significant difference, but it is a difference. So martial powers, again, as an invocation, you can pick up a power. What I was thinking about doing was removing this from invocations, and instead just making the prepared power list fluid, like the paladin and the ranger and the artificer, for example. They can prepare spells or powers, and they're all using the half casting short rest mana system that we have, just like everything else. For the warlock, technically the warlock doesn't gain ranks of power that multi-classes. It's just a full caster. But when you use invocations, you can cheat your invocation into going back to the actual document. When you pick up invocations, you become a channeler, and now you have an eldritch. Your invocations are being used to channel. You can just choose one and get access to whatever that power is. But your warlock level sets the max rank of power that you have. So basically, you mirror the martial power system, but it doesn't technically interact with it. And that was bothering me, like in multi-classing. The way that multi-classing works is if you're like a fighter, barbarian, rogue, whatever, a martial character. For every level that you put in as a martial class, it adds 1 to your multi-class channel limit. And then the like the paladin, artificer, and ranger, half of their levels contribute towards their spellcasting level, but every level contributes to their power level, because power level is built around half casting at the 1, 5, 9, 13, 17, 5 ranks of power. So the Warlock technically doesn't gain any levels in martial powers, because currently the way it's configured is that powers are only available through invocations, but when you do, it uses the martial power scaffold to power. And currently, like, we don't have, like, there's 27 different martial strikes that can be used on hit effects when you channel mana, but the Warlock can't use any of them. The Warlock currently only gets Eldritch Smite, which is for each point of mana I expend, I get 2d6. So, and I can spend up to 5 mana at 17th level. So 1 mana, 1, 5, 9, 13, 17, 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana, 4 mana, 5 mana. At 19th level, I can spend at 17th level, I can spend 5 mana to roll 2d6 damage on my Eldritch Smite, which actually, I have all the math here broken down for you. It actually, the way that's currently set is, as when you use an Eldritch Smite, you expend a spell slot and you get d8 plus 1d8 per spell level spent. And since the way that the Warlock is the raw, a 7th level Warlock is always using a 4th level spell slot, but you only get like 3 of them. So when I use Eldritch Smite, I would have 4d8 damage as a 7th level character. See, it'd be 48. 4th level spell slot plus 1 is 5d8. So it ended up being 5d8, and I only have 2 uses. So I have a total of 10d8 damage that I could deal using Eldritch Smites per short rest, which would be anywhere from 10 to 80 damage, or average is about 45. Using the mana system intact with 2d6 per mana expended, if I spent only 1 mana at a time, I would end up doing 7 of these. It would be 2d6 equals 7 mana. 1 mana is 2d6, which is a range of 2 to 12, which is going to average 7. So if I'm only using 1 mana at a time, I could do so 7 times at 7th level with 7 short rest mana. That would end up averaging 7 times 7 equals 49, which is about the same as 45. But then if we creep up here, 2 mana is a range of 4 to 24. 13 mana times 2 equals 46, or 49, 49. So it's all basically an orbit around the same amount of damage. So if we ramp up here, every level I've built it out. And up here at level 17, 108 on average is 119, 111, 118, 119, 118. Technically, this 108 at 17th level is the same at 16th. You can see here at 15th, 16th level, it's about the same granularly, 1 spell point at a time. It's roughly the same as the 108 that you would spend modularly with spell slots. So using the mana system 1 point at a time, or 2 points at a time, or 3 points at a time, or 4 or 5 points at a time, using the 2d6 mana, it scales the same as d8 plus d8 per spell slot level. It pans out, but it's a smoother mechanism of throwing 2d12s instead of having the clunky d8 plus d8 per spell slot. Again, mana makes everything more elegant in design and a more replicatable pattern. But this doesn't really jive with the martial power system. The martial power system works like for, you know, let's show you an example. Wrong spot. Here we go. Let's go down to strikes. Thundering Strike is one of my favorites. Your weapon can deal thunder damage and increase damage by 1 power die per mana expended this way. A creature is pushed directly away from you up to 10 feet for each point of mana expended. This jives with the Warlock Eldritch Smite. This part does. So if I spent 3 mana on an Eldritch Strike, I'd deal 3d6 damage, and if I was using Thundering Strike with it, it would be 3d6. It would be, sorry, 3rd level spell slot. It'd be 66. And since I spent 3 mana, I'd be able to push a creature up to 30 feet away, straight away from me. But the language here isn't 100% fluid. Thundering Strike is you spend 1 power die per mana, and the Eldritch Smite doesn't give you a power die. it gives you 2d6 mana using the curve of mana built here. But I'm thinking maybe it'd just be easier for us to remove Eldritch Smite and open up all 26 strike powers. And it's also bullshit that the Eldritch Smite works on hit, while the Paladin, who should be better at smiting than the Warlock, arguably, has to spend a bonus action to trigger the smite effect. Warlock doesn't have to do that, but also doesn't have any kick. Well, it does have kicker effects if it spends a spell slot. Eldritch Smite is the 2014 version of the Paladin Smite, but for some fucking reason they thought they needed to get rid of that for the Paladin, but they left it for the Warlock. That's just fucking dumb. So I'm infinitely angry at WotC for just being so. That's just dumb. That's bad design, WotC. Your ass is showing on that one. Seriously, the Paladin should be the best in the game at smiting. A second level Paladin, 18th level Sorcerer can technically do 10d8 dice worth of damage, while a Paladin using the same system at 20th level is only dealing 7d8 smite damage. It's not as good as like bailing on Sorcerer at second level makes you better at smiting than being a straight 20 level Paladin. That's so broken. The way that we do smite is so much better. You can spend mana up to your max rank. 17th level, that's 5. And if you spend your bonus action, at first level you get 1 bonus point. At 9th level you get 2 bonus points. And at 17th you get 3 bonus points. So the Paladin, by spending 5 mana, you can just do 5 dice of damage every time you hit. But if you want to spend a bonus action, you'll get an extra 3 dice. And if you multi-class into a Sorcerer at second level, you're stuck with 1 mana, 1d8, unless you spend your bonus action to make it 2d8. And you can be an 18th level Sorcerer, it doesn't fucking matter. Because your Paladin level determines how much mana you can put into a smite power. Not your combined spell level. But they ignored that, so the Sorcerer and the Warlock are both better at smiting than the Paladin in different ways in the 5e24 game engine. They nerfed Paladin, but ignored how everybody else uses smite. And that just infinitely pisses me off. 8d10, sorry, it's not 8d8, it's 8d10, because at 17th level, a Paladin uses a d10. So in 2014, or as written currently, spending a 9th level spell slot gives you 10d8 damage by expending a 9th level spell slot as a Paladin 2 Sorcerer 18. But with our system, spending 5 mana and your bonus action gives you 8d10. So it's either 80 or 80 one way or the other. But with our system, the Sorcerer can't help your Paladin smite at all. Stay in your fucking lane. If you want to be really good at smiting, if you want to smite, you can just be any martial class. Rogues can smite. It's fine. But they can only do it up to 5 mana at 17th level. The Paladin overclocks it. So the Paladin remains the strongest smiter in the game with 80 damage. Up to 80 damage. As opposed to, even with this system, with the Eldritch Smite, we force you to spend a bonus action. So we implemented that. Fuck you. Implemented that bonus action because if the Paladin's going to get screwed, so is the Warlock. And at best, you could put 5 mana into it. And that 5 mana only gives you 10d6, so you're going to cap at 60 damage. Equal to what a rogue could do with sneak attack. So this is not as powerful as the Paladin smite. But again, the Paladin really should be the best smiter in the whole game. And the way that we've changed the martial power system guarantees that they are. So, like a rogue can't use smite with sneak attack, but a rogue can replace sneak attack with free mana to spend on a smite instead. So at 19th level, a rogue gets 10d6 sneak attack dice plus a weapon mastery effect, or you could use a strike power with 5 mana for free at 17th level, giving you 5d10 damage plus the kicker effect, depending on what that kicker effect is. So you either replace You either use all your sneak attack dice, or you replace all your sneak attack dice with free mana to do a strike power. But when you do a sneak attack, you can't then spend mana on top of it, because that means that your mana cap would be 110 before crit. And that is significantly stronger than the Paladin. Again, the Paladin should be the absolute best at smiting in the game. And giving Rogue access to smite powers is going to violate that rule if they can do it with sneak attack. We have the cunning attack feature that they introduced in 2024 for the Rogue, which is interesting. Sacrifice 3 of your sneak attack dice and you can poison somebody. But with our system, at 5th level, you can sacrifice all of your sneak attack dice and instead gain 2 points of mana to spend on Poisoning Strike. Deal 2 dice of damage, which at 5th level is d6, so do 2d6 damage and your target is poisoned. As opposed to 5th level, you get 1-3. You sacrifice 2 of your dice to poison your target, so you deal 1d6 damage and your target is poisoned. We give you an extra die, but poison isn't worth that much. So anyway, there you go. Bob's your uncle. So like we've really thought this through on like what's the core, like what mechanic brings a specific class forward. Why is this class better than anyone else? What do they get that makes them better than every other class in their arena? And for the Paladin, it's smite. So we had to make sure that everything else that can do smites in the game can't do them as well as the Paladin. So we've had to really think through the mechanics of how other classes operate that could potentially rival what the Paladin can do and build them accordingly. And for the Rogue, instead of getting rid of some dice to create effects, we get rid of all of your dice so that you get free mana instead. So I could either do a strike power or I could use a maximum smite. My choice. Every time I hit, my choice. So I can effectively generate mana for free forever in combat. As long as I keep hitting with sneak attack, I'll keep getting mana. The maximum amount of mana that I can channel. At 9th level, it'd be 3 mana. At 13th level, it'd be 4 mana. At 17th level, it'd be 5 mana. And the power die is going to increase. D6 at 1, D8 at 9, D10 at 17. That keeps my like 5D10 plus a kicker effect is effectively sacrificing 2 sneak attack dice to do whatever I want. And at 17th, 19th level, that's worth. So there you go. So having said all that, getting rid of Eldritch Smite as it stands, this works. And if like when I rebuild Spell Point Sorcerers for 2015 for 2025, replacing what is already published for 2018 down below, this Eldritch Smite is appropriate for that class. This is a correct TM correct way to do this without Martial Powers existing. Martial Powers is a separate book that is a companion piece to the spell point to the color mana spell point variant rules, and will be added to the bundle so that everything's at a discount. But once we introduce Martial Powers, then we can say, hey, you can play your Warlock this way if you want to, but if you're implementing Martial Powers, the Warlock becomes a Gish. So this Eldritch Smite language is correct if you aren't using Martial Powers. If you are using Martial Powers, we want to get rid of it and replace it with this with the Eldritch Power progression table, where you would then instead be able to expend invocations and spell slots to acquire Martial Powers. So your character could be 100% martial with all of your pact mana, and then once you hit level 11, you're still only using 3rd rank powers, but you're capable of casting 5th level spells if you want to learn some for 5 mana. And at 11th level, you get access to 6th level spells. So if I wanted to, I could spend all my resources on martial stuff from the Martial Power system to make it Gish combat. And then at level 11, now I start getting high magic, like Disintegrate, or like true Shapeshift, or whatever. It's True Polymorph / Shapeshift. Like these become available. So there's a lot of variety that you can create in there. Having a 9th level Warlock, being able to channel 3rd rank powers, cast 5th level spells, but still being limited to the short rest mana pool at 9th level of being only 9 mana on a short rest. If you're going to throw a spell, it's going to eat your mana pool. If you're going to use martial powers, you could sacrifice your bonus action to generate mana to use like the strike or during movement reactions and stuff like that instead. So it allows you a lot of fluidity to move back and forth between, am I doing gishy martial power stuff or am I doing spellcaster stuff? What flavor of Warlock do I want to lean into given how constrained the mana pool is? But once you start getting into high magic with the long rest mana that's available to your character, you can spend that long rest mana on anything that you want. So then you could continue to lean into the gishing martial power stuff and just like having your disintegrate spell or etherealness as your 7th level spell or whatever, however you want to build out your arcanum, you still get that. But then you can decide how much of this do I want to be spell casting and how much do I want to be martials. Just like the paladin, the ranger, and the artificer, their half casting progression, which is symmetrical with the power system. So at 13th level as an artificer, I could have all powers or I could have all spells, neither of which are going to be higher than 4th level. So it's complementary in that sense. So the warlock can bend into that as well. So it's just a matter of rebuilding it so that it has spell points only. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm kind of mincing on, do I want to update this yet? Or should we just open it up so that if you want to, you can expend invocations to acquire martial powers, but you could also spend spell slots to gain martial powers as well. And this on its own is its own tear out as the advanced, as the graduated 2024 version of Spellpoint Warlocks. And then rebuilding it for the martial powers book specifically is another layer of variant rules that modify the warlock further. So I'm kind of whinging on, do I actually want to make that change right now or not? And honestly, I've shared all of this with my Discord server link down below. It's in the martial powers conversation that I'm going to open this up so that when you gain a level in warlock, you gain a full level of spell casting and you gain a full level of channeling, so that I could have like paladin 10, warlock 10, and it's a 20th level channeler and a 15th level spellcaster. So it helps keep things simple. So ultimately that's where I want to go, but I don't know if I actually want to integrate that into the book yet. So that's kind of where I'm at. Hey, what's up? Gish sounds like fun. Hell yeah, it does. Hell yeah, it does. Gish. I love the warlock. They're my favorite. And like you could have your pact be like with red dragons. That'd be a perfect pact for a gift. That would mean that like the gift queen, whatever her name is, would be a 20th level warlock, and all these spell jamming gifts, they would be probably loaded up on a shitload of martial powers plus some flash boom spells that they can amplify through through their ships. Like there is a ton of potential for Githyanki in Spelljammer utilizing this Gish system. Warlocks are so fucking cool, man. So fucking cool. Let's just put a notation down here then. Pact magic. You're not limited to casting one spell with mana per round. For example, you can cast a level 3 spell that uses the magic action and a level 2 spell that uses a bonus action during your turn if you have 5 mana available, blah, blah, blah. Spellcasting focus, and then let's go into channeling. See new invocations below. If currently we're looking at allowing Warlock to choose powers instead of spells, in addition to gaining powers as invocations. Half casting progression, 1, 5, 9, 13, 17 for ranks of power as per half casters. while retaining the full casting spell level progression. A level 9 Warlock can channel powers up to 3rd rank, expending at most 3 mana to do so, while being able to cast common magic up to 5th level by expending 5 mana to do so. I'm still sussing out specific details. So for now, we're leaving it as only invocations acquire powers, but the intent is to fully integrate them into spell selection once completed. This is currently under experiment and integration, but it's looking promising. Comment and like when you're using a martial power system, Eldritch, Paladin Smite doesn't exist. The Paladin spells don't exist. You remove them from the game and replace them with Martial Strikes and and Paladin's Divine Strike as a class feature instead of as a spell. But full casters could still have access to Hunter's Mark and Smite spells because they can't channel powers at all anyway. So, but I also want to add in here just a comment. When we integrate powers into the Warlock chassis, we'll remove this invocation and instead allow Warlock to prepare strike powers as a martial channeler. Same as the other martial classes. There. Just making a comment there. Eldritch Smite will no longer be relevant. Though we are demonstrating here that the spell point system, if martial powers didn't exist, Eldritch Smite this way coincides with the intent of how Paladin operates and again operates within its proper curve. So there's that. And honestly, it's it's 9:15. I think this has been, well, we've been at this like for 3 hours. I think that's a good session for today. So I think I'm going to go ahead and leave it where it's at. There's my timer. So I'm going to go ahead and check out. I'm going to do some games. I'm going to do some book design for the Eberron book. I'm going to get back tomorrow morning to continue with Eberron artwork. I'm also going to be back at lunch tomorrow. Since all the subclasses are done and I'm leaving Warlock as it sits for now, we're technically done with all the classes and subclasses. This all jives now with current UA mechanics and our current playtesting at level 7. Everything is aligned. So that means that we're now finally done with updating classes and subclasses. Tomorrow at lunch, we're going to dive back into Ravnica, Renown, and backgrounds. We're going to get into Strixhaven backgrounds and college credits, and Theros Piety. And then once we get through those, we're going to come back and we're going to start building out the rules for playing Mage Tower as a PvP combat sport, which I'm looking forward to running matches on my Discord channel. The DM would actually be like a literal referee in the arena of Mage Tower, and it would be the way that Magic the Gathering presents Mage Tower is it's on a 500-foot arena with 5 contestants, a goalie, and then 4 free roaming characters. And it's like soccer. It's like Quidditch. It's like Quidditch soccer or whatever. But that's not that 500-foot field and 5 players per side is not something you can realistically pull together for a PvP match of Mage Tower using the 5e game engine as like a side game, as a literal PvP game. So we're rebuilding it to be a 3v3. So like if you have 3 players, the DM could run a team of 3, and then the players would run 1 character each. If you had 6 players, you could actually have PvP, 3 people on each team. If you only had 4 players, you could do like 2v2 if you wanted to, however you want to mix it up. But we're going to be building up the rules, utilizing all the spell casting, class features, racial features, and the martial power system that we've been developing, so that we can use them in a combat frame in a much smaller in a much smaller arena, to make it more like street basketball doesn't have as big of a court as NBA sport basketball court. It's a small court, and like street hockey has a small space that we operate inside of. We're making that street tower sort of vibe to the game, so it's small and scrappy, but we have to build out rules like the ball, for instance, has to be considered both an object as well as an ally and an enemy, so that when you're using powers and spells and effects, you can target the ball as either like a thrown object, as an item that you can then attack the goal with. You could treat it as an ally, and like you can teleport your ally 50 feet. Great, I'm going to teleport my ally to the front of the goal. If I got a guy that's in position there, I can just blink the ball to him, and then he can kick it through the hoop. I get a point. Yay, Gryffindor. Or I could treat it as an enemy, in that like if the ball is just rolling loose, isn't under anyone's control, like I could use a disarm action to knock the ball out of somebody's hands, but the ball is alive. Like in Mage Tower, in the MTG setting, in Mage Tower, the ball is literally it's a living entity. But in game mechanics in 5e, it's treated as both an ally and an enemy at the same time. Choose. So like I could like cast fear on the ball. So if the ball is independent of anyone and rolling, it will not roll towards me. So if I'm the goalie and I cast fear on the ball, it will not come closer to me unless somebody is physically carrying it or using it as ammunition to throw through the hoop. But like if it's free roaming, like I could cast confusion on the ball and it's going to just randomly move in like a random direction. Whether it's going to help or not, who knows? It's just randomized. There's like a lot of different ways that we can, and the goal is both an object as well as an ally. So like if I'm going to attack the goal with the ball as a thrown weapon, the ball deals 1 point of damage. So if I have like the protection feat, I'm going to block the goal as a reaction using the protection feat, treating the goal as my ally and the ball as a weapon attack, dealing 1 point of damage. I can then neutralize that damage and block the goal. Or if I have a monk, I can use deflect attack once per round. Monks make great goalies, because as long as I'm squatting in front of the obstacle, I can block access to it. So now you have partial cover, increasing its armor class, and I can deflect attack that's targeting the goalie as an ally. Or I could then, as a striker that's trying to make a goal, I could dump 5 mana into it as a 17th level character to deal an extra 5d10 damage, block this fucker, and then I launch a 40 hit point attack at the goal. And if your monk isn't capable of absorbing 40 points of damage, it's still going to hit the goal, and Gryffindor still gets a point. It's like there's a lot of fun ways we can use the mechanics of the 5e game engine with the ball as an ally, enemy, and object at the same time to manipulate how we're using it. Like you can't disarm an opponent of a friend or an enemy, but if I treat the ball as an object, I can use disarming strike put 3 mana on it, and then kick it out of your hands and punt someplace like, say, 30 feet away. So if we have like a 100-foot field, that's a tight enough space, and like say we give it like a 20-foot, 50-foot range. So you can't throw the ball more than 50 feet, so you have to be at least at half court to make an attack on goal. But it's at disadvantage unless you get within 20 feet, for instance. Like, we're going to hash out all these mechanics here on screen with you guys. And once we've gotten to a point where we think we've covered, pardon the pun, covered the bases on how that system can work, we can start introducing that as playtest ideas to play during playtesting on my Discord channel on the weekend. And if we get enough people that are interested in building athletes out of the 14 character classes, make your athlete at, like, say, 11th level come equipped with the best build that you think is going to be able to score points or prevent points from being scored, or work with your team to build a coordinated effort team sort of synergy. And the DM can create, like, I'm going to create a Silver Quill team that's going to specialize in, like, confusing their enemies so that you can't use your action economy the way that you want to. You end up throwing the ball at your enemies so they just catch the ball. Now, so you basically give them the ball because they're confused. There's like a lot of fun ways you can use the narrative of the 5 schools in Strixhaven to flavor the type of teams that you're going to be combating against. So that's coming up. So we're going to work through the backgrounds for Ravnica, Strixhaven, and the P.E.D. system for Theros next, starting tomorrow, and then Thursday night, and then Friday lunch as well, and then Monday next week if we need to. But I anticipate by maybe Tuesday or Thursday next week, we'll be done with those subsystems, and then we'll start building out the Strixhaven sport. So that's what we've got on tap for July. That's it for now. I'm checking out for now. If you guys think this stuff is cool, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications. I'll be back tomorrow morning to do more Bob Ross painting for the Eberron adventure that I've been writing in Karnath. And again, I'll be back at lunch. That'll be at 2:30 in the afternoon, PST here in Seattle. That's -8 UTC, so calibrate your clocks accordingly, or like and subscribe and follow me here as well as on social medias so you can catch signal for when I go live, so you can tag in and hang out with me if you want. So thanks for hanging out, man. Well, I'm glad that you're interested. That's all I can do is put out ideas, and if it resonates with people, then God bless you. I'm glad that you think it's interesting, and if you can buy it to support these shenanigans, more thanks even still. So thanks a lot. I'll see you guys in the future. I am out of here for now. Later, Gators.